Ladies and gentlemen, hailing from Cleveland, Ohio, I give you BVO.
Oh, we boxing? Yeah, we boxing. I need that belt like it ain't no other option. So we punching and weaving and blocking. Defeat ain't an option. Let them know. Shoot a video, put it on BVO. Let them know. Every time I punch, it's a heavy blow. BVO, bound to hit like bricks cause it was set in stone. Let them know. I ain't getting body, but I'ma hit this flow. Yeah, way more than a show. This is BVO.
On behalf of BVO Sports TV, we would like to thank our sponsor, Raycon, makers of the Raycon Everyday Earbuds, the perfect model for premium sound with active noise cancellation to block out distractions and transparency mode to keep you aware of your surroundings. They are the ideal for your everyday needs. Just visit RayconGlobal.com. That's RayconGlobal.com and elevate your listening experience.
Shout out to BVO Boxing. You understand? Check the boy out. Check the kid out. You understand?
Yo, what's up, what's up, what's up? We got one of my favorite brothers in the building, man. The boxing source, man. And he coming to the dog house to talk some boxing. First time on the show. So how you doing today, brother?
Hey man, just chilling. I mean, it's I guess you could say one of those off weeks or something like that when it comes to boxing. So you just talk about different things and different topics that's going on around the sport, because there really isn't much for this upcoming weekend. Everything picks up the following weekend, and then we get right back in the mix when it comes to the sport, when it comes to major fights and things like that.
Yeah, so what you think about the White Rhino coming back to the ring this weekend? David Allen.
Dave, well, he got the thing there for Mark Madoff or something like that. We have I don't know if they're trying to look ahead, but they said what Hearn says he might try to get Dave Allen set up with a fight with Deontay Wilder, but I don't know how far that's going to go with all that, particularly when you had something with Deontay Wilder potentially fighting Andy Ruiz Jr. So first you have to see what Dave Allen does in this particular matchup, and then after that, then they'll see what they could have in place for Dave Allen on the Matchroom.
Yeah, speaking of that, because Deontay Wilder is probably my favorite fighter, man, of current times, other than Jermell Charlo. Would you say he had a Hall of Fame career in your opinion? How would you rate his career?
I mean, I don't know, man. Because a lot of times when people talk about Hall of Fame, they'll come up with accolades that maybe a fighter has and things like that. But me being in the business for a long time, and knowing a lot of people within the business, particularly some people that are, as they say, voters in the Hall of Fame, it's really, tough to gauge that, because it's almost like how some people treat the Baseball Hall of Fame or something like that, or, just because they have a name, or, they might be a beloved, either a player in baseball or a fighter, then they might get more credence than maybe other fighters that might have, better accolades or a better resume or something like that. So with Deontay Wilder and this, Hall of Fame talk, it's very tough. People will say, yeah, he should be a shoo-in, but again, you're talking about people that actually have votes in the Hall of Fame that'll say, you know what, I don't think he should be in a first ballot Hall of Famer or something like that, or maybe another year. So I can't really say at this point, to be honest with you. Maybe we can get into that whole Hall of Fame talk, a little bit, because there's other fighters that are in this current ballot that have gotten a lot of I would say criticism in the past. I'll just say
that. And the reason I say that about Deontay, I feel like the same way with Rocky Marciano, how he was able to deliver that right hand and for it to hit people right where it's supposed to hit them. I give him a lot of credit, because I felt like to me, when you seen a guy like Deontay Wilder, who wasn't, he came right off the beer truck to become an Olympic bronze medalist, I think that's the American story. I think those are the kind of stories we would hear about when me and you would read, about the different great fighters of yesteryear. They always would come like from some type of circumstance. Only person I could say that didn't come from nothing was Muhammad Ali, who happened to be one of our greatest, which is funny. The dude who come from a middle-class background ended up being one of our greatest. So I always got a kick out of his story. Speaking of that, I know
I'm the greatest, and I'm knocking out all bones.
Right. And you remember what Joe Louis said, if he would have got his hands on it, he would have done a Bum of the Month tour. So I always respect that. But going into a big fight that we've been all seeing, we got Devin Haney getting ready to fight Brian Norman Jr. What do you think about that fight?
Oof. I mean, some people say it's a 50-50 fight. I'm not leaning towards that as a 50-50 fight. The thing with Devin Haney, yes, he's, kind of like rated among or around the top 10 or 15 in the pound-for-pound rankings, right? But I think there was something there in his fight against Jose Carlos Ramirez, man, that kind of, had me a little bit antsy to see how he would perform against high-level guys.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it would have been in the 140-pound division or now here with the 147-pound division, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, even with all the stuff that went down in the Ryan Garcia fight, there are like some tendencies that I saw from Haney that were like glaring as far as like being defensively responsible. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like getting caught with the same thing and not making proper adjustments. Now he's going up against someone in Brian Norman Jr. who, had his, highlight reel knockout there, what it was against Santian, and then was able to, be able to get the WBO title. And ever since then, he's kind of been doing better, each time. Ever since like he had that no contest against what is it, Jefferson Bogachica. But ever since then, he's like improved a little bit each and every time. And in his last bout, he pretty much like set up that knockout shot perfectly. Getting it down to the body of Jen Sasaki and then just coming up upstairs with the hook. That was just textbook work there from Brian Norman Jr. So he's on a high, and I think that he's going to approach this with a lot of confidence against someone in Devin Haney, and Devin Haney is going to have to be, I would say, a little bit at or a little higher at the level that he was against Vasily Lomachenko for this fight.
So I hear people say that, and I love Brian Norman Jr., but my thing is when I look at Devin Haney, I think his experience would be something that'll really give Brian Norman some, a hard time because, he's been in there with Linares, Jojo Diaz, Lomachenko, where some thought he lost that fight or was a draw. I honestly think, and this is God's honest truth, I think that because people like Brian, they're not really looking at his resume the way they normally would. Because if you think about it, if Devin Haney would have knocked out Jen Sasaki, made him hit his head on the canvas, they would have said that was a cherry pick. But because we love Brian Norman Jr., all of a sudden, he beat the best ever. You know what I mean? So I just think a lot of it is kind of with me. I kind of feel like a lot of what we getting when it comes to Brian is just because we like him. But if we see this fight, Brian fights a very Mexican style. He is athletic. But we know when you get in there with a slick black fighter, that becomes null and void. So that's my only thing with that fight. I think Devin's gonna show out in this fight. I think Devin's gonna really put hands and feet on Brian Norman Jr. in this fight. In my opinion, I think he's gonna put hands and feet on him. And you know what's gonna remind you of? It's gonna remind you of Gotti Floyd. When it's gonna remind you of that because Devin's not gonna walk to him like we seen Santillan do. Santillan walk right to him to get beat dead. Same thing with Jen Sasaki.
I don't know how, like for that, because with Gotti and Floyd, like we all knew who Floyd was, at what 130 or 135 or whatever it was before he stepped in the ring against Arturo Gotti. He already had those fights against top level fighters. You know what I mean? Within those particular divisions, right? So when it comes to like Devin Haney, like he had his fight against like George Kambosos Jr. first to become the undisputed lightweight champion, then defended it in the rematch, and then had the bout against Vasyl Lomachenko. And as you mentioned, with that being a very close fight, some people thought that Devin Haney lost. Then he goes up and he faces Regis Prograis there at 140 pounds. He's had the fights against Jorge Linares, as you said. But for me, like that particular fight that Floyd had against Arturo Gatti, that was like an absolute show against a guy that really people knew that Floyd had all of those type of abilities over Arturo Gatti. Gatti was just like a fan favorite there in Atlantic City, right? So here with Brian Norman Jr., is he like a fan favorite to the level of Arturo Gatti? Not to me. He hasn't had that following as of yet, right? But the thing is that with his performances that he's had against Santillan, against Jen Sasaki, and then before that, when he had that first defense of the WBO title, that it's like, okay, maybe he is coming into his own as a fighter, and maybe Devin Haney is getting to fight for a world title against a fighter that's kind of like becoming better and better as time goes on. Like if it was Devin Haney versus like a Mario Barrios, maybe it'd be a little bit different. But going up against a guy that has like a high knockout ratio of sorts there with Brian Norman Jr., it's like people are unsure about all that.
See, I think if we look in the past history, I think Brian Norman Jr. should really put on a tape of Bernard Hopkins versus Felix Trinidad. Because if you think about it, yeah, Brian has power on both hands, but it's really that left hook that really puts you to bed. And I think if Devin go in there with a smart game play, he could take that from him and beat the life out of him. It's just all about what Devin we get. That's the only thing. Because I feel like people putting this thing up on Devin, but I feel like Devin has what it takes to be a great fighter, because we just seen Bud Crawford beat the best fighter in the world by a lot of people's estimation, or the cash cow better yet. So, like my man JP said, agent offer anything's possible. What you think?
The thing with Crawford Canelo, I picked Crawford to win that fight. Well, mainly because of like where Crawford was as far as like his career in comparison to Canelo, and the way that their styles like mesh. Like styles make fights. And that style was like all wrong for Canelo Alvarez. All for me that Crawford had to do was to stay in the southpaw stance and make sure that he establishes his reach advantage and know where he's at from spacing. And it was like smooth sailing from there. The scorecards were a lot closer than that fight actually was. But here with this, tail of the tape, these guys are around the same height. Pretty much like have around the same reach or something like that. So it's not to a point where Devin Haney like would have a significant reach advantage there, or something where he could, use height. So I would have to see something within Devin Haney for this fight that I haven't really seen in past fights, so to speak, or at least in recent fights. To me, the best version of Dev probably was around like 2019 or 2020 when he knocked out, what was that, Antonio Moran and who was it in New York City? Yeah, he
his head went around, like his head.
Yeah, Zara Abdullayev. Like he beat up Zara Abdullayev there in 2019. So, like, if it wasn't like those two fights, then I have to lean towards Brian Norman Jr. here for this upcoming fight, November 22nd.
So, you got anything on that prize for free?
Yeah, I mean, that's his opinion, We all split. That's why it's a 50-50 fight. And shout out to the boxing source. But that's why it's a 50-50 fight, because you got some people like me and BBO feel like Devin's going to style on him. And I don't know quite a Mayweather Gotti performance, but I do think Devin will surprise a lot of people. But then you got other people who's like Brian Norman Jr., they come on his channel and chop it up with us. So the respect is there. And that's what, half the people saying that Brian Norman's going to win the fight because of his power, and he got power in both hands. So, can he cut the ring off? What kind of Devin Haney shows up? All that stuff plays in. You mix it all up in one bowl, you got 50-50, bro. You don't know what's going to happen. You truly don't.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm right there with boxing source though. I think when you look at the two guys where they at in their career, is Devin Haney has climbed the mountaintop and he believes he's the top dog in this fight. Brian Norman is the champion. He's a rising star. A lot of people don't know who he is just yet. But
mhm.
I think, like the boxing source just said, I think Brian Norman is starting to come into his own. So that can be a recipe for a bad disaster for Devin Haney when you got a guy that's starting to believe in his talent and he's able to do what he needs to do in that ring. Because a lot of people are not giving Brian Norman credit for his boxing ability. They're not giving him credit for his footwork. They're saying Devin outclassed him in all of those phases. I don't think he outclassed him. He might be slightly better, but I don't think he outclasses him.
I mean,
I
If you
respect
pay
that.
attention to how he fights, look at as he started progressing in his career, that he does have boxing ability. He showed that he does have footwork, and we already know that he has the power. And if you just looking at the left hand, you're going to get slept by the right hand because he does have a powerful right hand.
Boxer Source, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever seen a movie called Boys in the Hood?
Oh yeah.
And you remember the scene when Ice Cube brought the guy who Morris Chestnut's character Ricky in and put him on the couch?
Mm-hmm.
That's probably what they're gonna do. They're gonna probably have to carry Brian Norman
That's
Jr. out that
crazy.
ring, man.
That's crazy.
I'm telling you, man. Devin's gonna whoop him, man. And one thing I'm gonna tell you why I say this. I seen in the Lomachenko fight where I thought Devin was about to get stopped. When Devin's the bigger man, what did he tell Loma? You too small. You too small. And when I seen this height difference, it looked there. I don't think Brian Norman's no 5'8". I think he might be closer to 5'6", because Devin looked like Shaquille O'Neal next to him. And we know what happened when Devin get a little bitty fighter in there. He beats the life out of him. So that's what I'm gonna just say. That's just me. Just remember that movie and Box Swords. I told you first. They're gonna carry that brother up out that ring, man. It's gonna be nasty. Shout out to my man Curtis Robinson. It's
That'll
gonna be nasty.
okay. I'll say this. That'll be one of the more surprising things of this year. Because the thing with Dev, right?
Mm-hmm.
I talked about those two. Two of the three fights that he had in 2019. One was in outside of DC, and the other one there against Abdullah was at the theater at Madison Square Garden. He got one was a clean knockout, the other one was like a dominant stoppage. Those were the last two knockout victories that Devin Haney has had.
Mm-hmm.
We've been here, since 2019, and he's had multiple fights and multiple wins, and wasn't able to stop those opponents, whether it was Vas Lomachenko, Yuri Yorkis, Gamboa, Regis Prograis, or whatever. So, him getting a knockout over Brian Norman Jr. for the WBO welterweight championship, that would be really something if he's able to pull that off.
Yeah. It's gonna be a lot of people crying, man. It's gonna be a lot of people crying when he do his thing.
Even if you look at that Moran fight when he knocked Moran out, Devin put everything he had in his body behind that punch. He put his entire body behind that punch.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, man, I want to ask you a question, man. There was a fight, where we got to see my man Shakur Stevenson versus Willie Zepeda. How did you see that fight? And did you think that was a fight it would go that way? Did you think that fight would go that way?
Yeah, I did. They had, the press conference there at that was at Palladium Theater, right? With that matchup.
Yeah.
They were talking about the thing there with Edgar Berlanga and Hamza Shiraz, and then you had Shakur Stevenson and William Zepeda there, and I'm like, this is going to be a 10-2. This is going to be a 10-2 performance, because Zepeda to me is a guy that works off of volume. So it's not like he would really knock out people. He just is able to overwhelm his opponents and then eventually stop them. But with Shakur Stevenson, he has like a particular style that is all wrong for someone like William Zepeda because of, the way that he is able to, gauge distance, his speed, his timing, and all of that. So when that fight happened at Louis Armstrong Stadium, I was like, man, this guy is gonna tend to him, or have it to the point where he would kind of stop him. You know what I mean? So I think in those first like 6 rounds or something like that, like Shakur absolutely dominated William Zepeda, and then kind of like laid off the gas a little bit, but still it ended up being like a 10-2 fight. So I saw that happening from like months. I thought that would have been an easy win for him.
Much love and respect to my brother Paz with the 2-piece. Shout out to Angie Baby with the 5-piece. Appreciate you guys supporting. I gotta say this. What I seen, and I like to call Shakur Sanchez because now all of a sudden he's Puerto Rican out of nowhere. So I'll be messing around calling him Shakur. Come on, what's your story? I thought he was black his whole life. Then when I see him at the top rank car with the Puerto Rican flag.
Yeah, the Puerto Rican. Yeah, they had that flyer. Yeah, man.
You see, I'm not making this up. They waving the Puerto Rican flag. I said, I thought that brother's from Jersey. But when I seen him fight like he did, I said, this dude's on another level. He's on another level. I didn't know he had that in his arsenal. Because when he set up like that, I'm not saying he Floyd. It was like Floyd-like. It was a Floyd-like performance with the domination.
It was almost like I hadn't seen him really like that since I would say his fight against Jamel Herring in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of like show where his full potential is. People have seen it in the gyms and things like that, but they haven't like actually seen it in the ring. There on a consistent basis. So there with that, William Zepeda is like, yeah, that's the Shakur Stevenson that people wanted to see. You know what I mean? And you kind of like if you were there live, you would see how like the crowd was really receptive to Shakur Stevenson there, for most of that fight.
The only thing about it I didn't like, I seen him shaking them hands out a lot. So, and shout out to my brother Just Do. Just Do did have some information where the hands bothered him a little bit, but he still gave us, I thought, his best performance.
Yeah.
But I'll say this: the part that kind of killed it was when I heard him say, "I'll never fight like that again." I didn't like that. I wish I could have hit him in the back of the head like he did that lady.
I kind of was saying like, kind of like giving credence to his performance and him performing to that type of level because people were talking about how he was doing in his previous fights. Not necessarily the one that he had against Josh Padley, but the one that was last year in Newark. Where he fought Artem there, Hartunian, and it was like, okay, now you can see the elements of what I can do and things like that. But you do want to see that from Shakur Stevenson, and it wasn't necessarily like he was in there mixing it up with William Zepeda to that particular level. It was just that he was on a completely different league than William Zepeda. You know what I mean?
He was right there, and I think to me that's why when I hear people say Floyd ran, it's nuts because Floyd was right there.
Yeah,
and
that's the thing.
And that's what Floyd would do. He was right there.
He'd be right there, and that's what you're seeing in with the Shakur Stevenson, particularly in that first half of the fight. He'll be right there in the pocket, just slipping and then landing combinations there with William Zepeda. So I didn't see like how that type of style would be like not good for Shakur Stevenson. If his defense and blocking and slipping is on point, then he'd be able to hang with just about anybody.
So let me ask you this: this is probably just a fight we'll probably never get. What do you think about Shakur Stevenson versus Andy Cruz? How would you see something like that going?
Ooh, man, that's a good question. I don't, to be honest with you, I don't know. Mainly because I don't know where Andy Cruz is at this point of his career. He's just he's still not had 10 pro fights yet. And I don't think that he's kind of like made that full transition from like being fully defensive to incorporating more of his offense. I know that he's out there in Philly, there with Coach Bosey, in the dungeon there, but I don't think he's kind of like really adjusted to that as of yet. So I don't know what to kind of like make of that fight, at least right now.
He's not ready for that one, boxing source. I think he's a
Well,
little
right now, no.
wet behind the ears and mess with
Yeah,
Shakur.
no. Right now, no.
You think I think he's regressed since he's been with Bozy. I think he's got worse and
What?
worse and worse since he's been with Bozy. Salute to my brother Picasso.
What was this fight?
He said he got worse since he been with Bozy.
That's wild.
As a pro,
I thought he looked a little bit better.
As a pro.
I mean, in order for you to say that, in order for you to say he got worse since he been with Bozy or he got better since he was Bozy, you had to see him fight with another trainer since he's been in the pros. He hasn't fought with any other trainer since he's been in the pros.
Well, let me say why I said that, boxing source. It's because I seen Andy in the amateurs, and the brother like Michael Jordan. When I'm talking about, he was that dominant in the amateurs. He looked so special in the amateurs. I'm talking about. There was no fight that I seen, and I watch amateur boxing. That's how I knew so much about Jermaine Ortiz. I knew about T.O. when they was coming because I keep up with the amateurs.
Mm-hmm.
And what I seen with Andy was, I said, dang, when he touched down, he gonna burn some stuff down. But I've honestly seen him kind of get away from what made him great. Like now he's overly defensive. In the amateurs, I seen him be very, very dominant offensively. And I'm not saying anything with Bozy, because one thing I will say with Bozy does a hell of a job, because Bozy made a fighter who was already good even better than Scooter. We see how much Scooter has improved under Bozy. I mean, it's undeniable. I mean, he beat the dog crap out of my man Brandon. I didn't see that coming. Shout out to Bozy on that route. And coach, and shout out to my man Coach Mike and Coach Ivan told me, he said, yo, Scooter gonna be on another level in this fight. I just say, hold on. And what I'm saying is so crazy about it is, I just wonder, when are we gonna see the Andy we seen from the amateur? That's all I'm saying. Or is that not possible? Is that too much for me to think that?
No, see the thing.
Hold on, I'm asking. Let Boxing Force go real quick. Then you come in.
Is it source?
Go ahead, source.
Andy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see more there from Andy Cruz. As far as like him, having that full adjustment. From like amateurs to pros. I mean, he's only 6 fights in. That's right. Crazy. I mean, he's 6 fights in. And he's already, kind of like, what is it? Around like a top contender there for the WBC or the IBF or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So you probably have to see him in probably 1 or 2 more fights before they say, hey, maybe he could go after, one of the world champions there at the lightweight division.
Go ahead, Free.
No, what I was saying is, when you looking at him in the amateurs and looking at him in the pros, there's 2 different styles of fighting. The amateurs, they only got 3 rounds, so they have to score as many points they can in those 3 rounds. When he came into the pros, he started off fighting 10 rounds. He can pace himself. He don't have to be very offensive like that, because when you come into the pros and you very offensive like that, that's how a lot of those young guys end up losing, because they still have that amateur pedigree and they haven't adapted to the pros yet. So the way Bozy is showing them you don't have to spend all your money in one store. You can spread it out throughout the entire mall. You got more than just 3 rounds. You got 10 rounds. You got 12 rounds. You ain't got to spend it in the first 3 rounds. So I think you're looking at it a little bit different. That's why you can't judge what a person did in the amateurs compared to the pros, because the amateurs don't have the same luxury of having 8, 10, 12 rounds. They don't have that same luxury.
What do you say to that, Boxing Source?
I mean, yeah, he got it there on that one, because Andy Cruz had one of those rare instances where he has like a pro debut and they're scheduled for 10 rounds. A lot of times fighters are there, they have the 4 rounders, or maybe it could be like 6 rounders if they give them a little bit more leeway. But outside of like a Vasyl Lomachenko or something like that, you don't really see amateurs having their pro debuts scheduled for like a 10 round fight. So with that being said, like you want to be able to have that type of time to, work, see what you could do, see what your opponent does. If you have the defense, and you'll have your defense on point, and also work on your offense and see what you can do as far as like combinations, what's your strongest punch, your second strongest punch, and things like that. So I think with Andy Cruz, he's kind of like learning that in a number of the fights that he's had, in the past few, or his first few fights, so to speak.
Yeah, I feel what you're saying. And maybe, like I said, because I was watching him in the amateurs, he was just so dominant. I mean, he was just beating people to death. And to see him now almost look so tame. But shout out to my man Sharif O'Neal. He said something I'll never forget. He said, I'm going to ask you this question. He said, when you fight in the amateurs, he felt like it makes you a worse fighter because you're not looking to do what you do in the pros, and that's stop the guy. Do you think that's true, that the amateurs, it makes fighters worse?
Ooh, I don't know how to make of that, because I mean, you had like extended history, just even with the pros and the amateurs, but they have like different styles. You're more of thinking about points in the amateurs than to try to stop your opponent, or try to overwhelm your opponent to a point where it could be stopped. So I think they kind of like do it to where they're more point based and what I would say fundamental based there in the amateurs. So that's why, like, a lot of times when you see a lot of the fighters that come in from overseas or from a Kazakhstan or whatever it is, they more deal with the fundamentals than deal with like trying to stop your opponent.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. When you think about the news, and I heard from somebody real close situation, they saying that they got Genevieve versus Laura. Are you excited about seeing PBC and Top Rank hopefully end this Cold War?
I'm more happy that there would be an actual unification fight at 160 pounds. I don't really care who it would be. Like, at least we would have a unification at 160. I mean, I thought, initially it would have been Janibek versus Carlos Adames, but that talk fell through. So I guess maybe this is like, the alternative or whatever it is. But this is something because we haven't seen Laura fight, all this year. So I just want to see unifications at 160. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Laura been beating people dead. So I mean, no matter
They talking
what.
about Jennebeck, BVO and Laura. They said they
Yeah.
mentioned that something.
Yeah, that's what we're just saying.
Yeah, so
Because when I
they
look
got
at
to unify that. Divisions have been what you call a BVO, a wasteland. It's been a
that's a
wasteland for a minute.
wasteland.
Yeah.
It's a wasteland. And you know what? I really hate that Jamal had his issues, because I remember when Jamal first got to middleweight, I was so excited. Remember that excitement we had? Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I thought him and Canelo was going to get it on. And I still hate that Jamal dug Bubba Andrade, because I thought that was more Bubba Andrade's weight class, 160, than 68. I thought 60 was well, maybe I take that back. Maybe 54 was his weight class, because he was dangerous as heck back then. But I just thought at 160 he was on another level. But the thing I hated with him, he would like beat you up and then he'll coast.
You think he ducked Andre?
Yeah, I do.
Nah.
I don't think so. I think Andre backed out of the fight like two.
Yeah, Andre.
No, not Jamel. Not Jamel. I'm talking about Jamal.
Jamal. Yeah.
That's who it was, I believe.
Didn't
BVO.
Eddie say he called?
That's
Didn't he say he
was.
called Jamal with $7 million?
Yep. He said he wouldn't be. He said he wouldn't rock with that $7 million.
That was crazy.
It was more about. He said it was more about who would he fight after beating Jamal. I'm like, who cares? It's $7 million. So.
Right.
I don't know. I always felt like Boo Boo got a bad shake. He should have never, ever, ever, especially the week of the doggone fight, left that Jamel fight, because that really scarred his whole career.
That was Jamel Charlo that he backed out of the fight.
That's what I said.
Yeah, it was Jamel Charlo. Jamal never offered him the fight because he left his brother stranded.
Yeah, because his
brother couldn't get a fight that week.
Yeah,
he
they
lost
said
money
it was
on that.
like he backed out of the Jamel fight. But it's funny because like years back I talked with Paul Andrade about it, and he said, man, that there was never a fight. And I'm like, huh? What do you mean there was never a fight? He said there was no promotion, no flyers, no nothing. I'm like, man, I don't know what to make of all that.
Yeah,
That's wild.
Hey, we lost in that fight because Jamel at 54 and the way Andre looked at 54. I say Demetrius Andre has got to be one of the saddest stories in boxing history. The dude never became what he was. He ended up fighting the Mexican pussycat, getting beat dead, and people gonna remember him for getting beat dead by that fight. Because I mean, my God, the Mexican monster. And if you watch that fight, Boo Boo was kicking his ass until he wasn't.
That's what usually happens though when you fight.
It was a
Benavidez
160-pound fighter against a 175-pound fighter at 168.
Hey, but Andre came in at 200 pounds boxing, so it's not like he didn't come in.
He did, but
he came in big as a house and got beat dead, man. I'll never forget. And then I remember when he looked up when the Mexican monster hit him in the head. He looked up like somebody hit him with a bat. and let me ask you this about the David Benavidez, because I'm not the biggest fan of him because I feel like he ducked Canelo and went to 75. But what do you think about how much he's improved over the last few fights? Because versus Vosnik, I feel like he was on another level because I seen him go to a place I've never seen him really go, where he had to really be that guy, and he was able to dominate a rugged guy in that. What did you think about that?
I think he's kind of like been there since he had the fight against Caleb Plant in 2023. You know, before the Andre fight. I kind of like seeing his improvements from there. I mean, from an offensive perspective, he's been like one of the more active fighters when it comes to, you know, activity. But as far as like having a versatility with his offense, that's one. And then two, and like you said, the Gavasik fight, in some instances there when he was fighting David Morrell Jr., he's had like improved on his defense as well. You know, so he's kind of worked on that. But in the Morrell fight, like I seen him do like multiple things there on offense, you know, do the almost like the drop down the guard style.
Yeah, that pulling that guard,
and shoot, and then do like as I call it the overcut. You have the uppercut, right? But then you have the overcut where you just come up and then you go down, basically, right? So he's
that McDonald punch.
Arsenal, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that McDonald punch.
Yeah. So he's added that to his offensive arsenal, and I like to see how he does here upcoming for November 22nd against Anthony Yarde.
He's going to beat Yarde to death.
I think Yarde has success in the beginning like he normally does, but then I think he just gasses, man. That's his only problem. But Yarde ain't no pushover now. But I feel like he'll be competitive in the beginning, but after 6, 7, I think Benavidez is going to start getting to him.
Yeah, what you think on that, Free?
I'm right there with Prize. I think at the beginning, I don't even think it's going to go that far. I think the first 4 rounds, Yarde is going to have success. I think once David Benavidez figure out how he's boxing, the movement that Yarde is having, David Benavidez is gonna start to walk him down and start to use his jab and go to the body. David Benavidez is a vicious body puncher. He loves going to the body. And I think that's what's going to ultimately slow Yarde down is the body work that David Benavidez is going to attack him with. But I think Yarde end up probably getting stopped somewhere around the 8th or 9th round.
But let me ask you this, boxing source. Does anybody worry about David Benavidez's chin? Because he stay getting put on his pockets. And I don't think people bring it up enough. Because even in Morrell, they try to say it was a slip. We seen he was on his pockets, man. What do you think? Why do you think a guy that big got such a weak chin? What do you think?
I mean, I don't know. That Morrell fight though, I thought, I mean, it was a great fight. I mean, I was there live. It was a great fight, but I thought I would have seen a little bit more from Morrell from offensive perspective. And then when you seen him like in the 10th round and in the 11th round, like fight off of his front foot and like kind of have Benavidez on his back foot, then that was something that where Benavidez wasn't necessarily used to. So that could be an opportunity to get him, right? But with Benavidez, I think that he could take a little bit of punishment there because in that fight, man, they both took a lot of punishment. Man, that was like a war there of sorts in the like back half or the back part of the fight. But I don't necessarily say that it was like a thing where he had like a weak chin or something like that. No, it was.
But he keep going down, Boxing Source. Let's not overlook. He stayed going down, man. People keep forgetting. Benavidez like to lay on them pockets for a minute, man. Even though those 4 short times, he like to sit down there and pray and then get up. I mean, it's not like I'm not making this up. He be on them pockets, man.
Pray. Come on, man.
He like to be on. He get on
BBO
there,
rough, bro. That's crazy.
Hey, Boxer, so he get on there, he'll pray, then he get up. That's what he do.
When's the last time he been knocked down, BBO? I think you're being disingenuous right now.
No, he been down about how many times, Boxer Source? About 3 or 4 times he done been down.
I don't know about that.
Who you talking about?
Maybe
Benavidez.
David Benavidez.
It's only been like one other time, and it was like the same instance there with Gavril.
Yeah, right. He shut him right down. And y'all forget until they got that cut. What was it? What's Anthony Durrell's brother's name? The one killing
Andre.
Andre. No, not Andre. Was it Anthony that did it? Andre's the older one. But you remember, he was kicking David Benavidez's head until he got cut. Once he got cut, it was over. But until he got that cut, I don't know. I feel like this. I can't wait till we see Benavidez in a fight with somebody who got a pulse, because I think people kind of overrate him. I always hold it against him that when he had a chance by the best commissioner in boxing, the great Mauricio Suleiman, said, "Hey, you had a bad break. We'll offer you a title shot at 175 versus Dimitri. No, what's his name? Arthur. What's the
Better be
Arthur Beterbiev. Is it Arthur Beterbiev? Yeah, Arthur Beterbiev. Yeah. When he didn't take that fight, I said, "Oh, you a fraud." But you calling out Canelo because he little. No, so we gotta be honest, man. I'm playing devil's advocate, and I love Benavidez.
Yeah, it's devil's advocate, but we're gonna see here when it comes to David Benavidez. I mean, I had spoken with him some time back. When they initially had him on for his fight against Anthony Yard, and he said that he's going to be, in these type of fights here for the next 2 or 3. So after Anthony Yard, he gets through that, then we're going to see something big with Benavidez there in the light heavyweight division, whether it's going to be Beterbiev or Dimitri Bivol, one of the two.
Yeah. The only thing about Beterbiev, King Arthur is half dead. He's too old now. He kind of missed his shot. Yeah. Man. That's the only thing. It sucks how guys, like, right when they get too old, they tend to always get their shine. And that's the same way for like Demetrius Andrade. While he's old and washed, he's still kind of washed that. That's when he get the big fight. But speaking of that, let me ask you about somebody we all excited about, man. What do you think about this young kid from Cleveland, the greatest boxing city we have, Cleveland? What do you think about this kid? What do you think about Abdullah Mason, man, coming out of Cleveland? What do you think about that young kid?
I got to catch up with him, and his dad there, shout out to them. He's as they say, he's one of the more talented young fighters out there. We had the thing where he was able to get that opportunity to be a main event there. Even with what happened there with Keyshawn Davis, was able to show out there in Norfolk there, man, against Jeremiah Nakathila. Made Nakathila quit. He said, "Man, I am not okay. I am not okay." I was like, "Oh, God, yo." I wanted to see that stoppage. I wanted that round to go into the next round and then just have a definitive stoppage, man. Because, man, I was there ringside. I'm like, man, I want to see another round of this. And then I saw him there in the corner, and then I said, "Don't stop the fight! Don't stop the fight!
Don't stop it!
Don't stop the fight!" And then the doctor came in, and the ref stepped in and started the fight, and I'm like, "Oh my God!" I wanted a definitive ending to that, but you see that Abdullah Mason is one of the more talented young fighters out there. Has been very active over the past couple of years. He had 5 fights last year. He had the thing with Norfolk. He was in Vegas, and he was in New York City there this year, already. And so now he's at the verge of fighting for a world title against Sam Noakes. There's like some people that say maybe Sam Noakes could get him. I'm like, I don't see where that is.
No way, no way.
I don't
No
see
way.
it. I don't.
No. Sam Noakes is a cab driver, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm like, I remember. I saw what happened last year when Mason was at in Norfolk there with the Scope Arena, and he had that round of the year there, that first round that he had against Vasquez. But ever since then, he's kind of been sharper and sharper each time out. So I think that he's going to get this win, become the WBO lightweight champion, and then we're going to see what could be in store for him there for 2026.
That's a good point, and it only scared me when I seen that dude with the shag keep putting him on his pockets. That kind of scared me a little bit, but I think that might have just been, not understanding. Hey, when you hurt, don't run straight in. But as great as Abdullah Mason is, we got a guy who's 10 times better, probably gonna be the face of boxing one day. What do you think about Emiliano Vargas, looking like his dad, Fernando, but better? What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's someone that they could kind of like get behind. We did see what happened with Fernando Vargas Jr. On September 13th there at Legion Stadium, but Emiliano Vargas looks like someone that could really be able to put everything together and be the guy that the fans could get behind of sorts there. So I want to see like how he does. He's just there at like 15-0, but we have to like see how they're going to get him going, particularly they're under top rank. So I want to see like how they do there once they get things going as far as like a network is concerned again, because outside of that, they're just having a lot of these fighters be able to fight in these Riyadh season events or ring events or anything outside of that. You know what I mean?
So when you seen, because you was there that night, I'm gonna ask you about that night when we seen Xander become champion. You was there that night when Emiliano hit that guy with one punch and the guy just got obliterated. And when he got up, did you see his eye?
Oh no! I didn't. No. I'm gonna tell you why, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you had the whole thing with the initial fights that happened or went down, right? And like a lot of those went like the full rounds, whether it was like 6 rounds or 8 rounds or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, it was going slow.
Yeah, it was going mad slow. So it was about to come to the time where the main card was going to start, right? And I was like out in the lobby and things like that. And at the time, I was talking with Edwin De Los Santos, right? Mm-hmm. So by the time I was done with talking with Edwin De Los Santos and I got back to like that main area, he had already knocked the guy out. So I missed that old joint, yo.
Hey, because I turned around because I had seen Sergio Matias. By the way, the brother don't speak a lick of English, dog. The brother did me like I was an alien when I was talking to him. So
yeah, man.
The brother don't speak no English, man.
Yeah.
And he knocked him out. That was crazy. But I know you know about my brother TD Sports. Did you see when Xander won the championship, how all those Puerto Ricans in there was crying and so happy when he won? I'll never forget that. Was that crazy? Did you hear that scream? Didn't you think Muhammad Ali was coming in the ring when they came out? Tell them when they're screaming that loud, man.
I mean, yeah, but that the theater, man, has like great acoustics because when it comes to like your overall capacity, wouldn't like seem like that much, but when you had like that particular fight or a few other fights that were there on that card, you could see that when the support's there for those guys, that it would really you really hear them. Like even when you had the Dominicans out there, like you had Yan Santana on the card, you had Rohan Polanco on that card. So when they were fighting, you could, hear the support that they had. But Bruce Choo Carrington was out there. You know what I'm saying? They had the support there for Carrington on that. But yeah, when Xander was out there for his fight against Jorge Garcia, like all the Puerto Ricans, they were really like cheering for him on that.
Hey, one of my guys, one of my co-hosts, D Free, he's a Puerto Rican. He didn't believe me. I told him all the Puerto Ricans in there was crying and going crazy when he won the championship. I told him on one line, wasn't they in there crying, man? They was going crazy, man.
Yeah. I didn't say you was lying. I said you was lying about Thomas.
Yeah, he was lying about
Hold on.
What was in there crying?
Oh, let me show you this picture, man. You see that picture?
Yeah,
That's my brother TD Sports, and he had so many tears in his eyes when he was standing by.
That's cat. Don't let him do that.
Xander.
Don't do him like that, man.
Don't let him
was
do
it-
that, boxing sword.
And you
Don't
know,
let him do
Xander
that.
came in with the John Travolta from Grease cut, and he was in there crying. I said, bro, you can't cry like that.
No.
My boy Johnny Boy Boxing confirmed that he cried, man. So I don't
Oh
Johnny Boy got up here and confirmed that he was up here crying, man. I don't know.
no! Oh,
I don't know why
man.
they doing that. And he got so mad at me, he wouldn't introduce me to Emiliano Vargas. Ain't that crazy? He didn't let me see one of my favorite fighters. He just kept taking pictures with him without me. That was crazy, man.
That's wild, man.
But let me see.
Shout out my brother TD Sports, man.
Yeah, TD was that man. He was crying so hard, man.
Nah.
It was crazy. He was getting my shirt messed up. He almost messed up my BBO shirt, man. He was crying so
That's
hard.
wild. TD
I'm
not
telling
here to
you.
defend himself. That's
Yeah,
wild.
man.
It's all right, man. It's the truth. It's the truth. He was in there crying, man. And then
man.
Puerto Ricans was in there crying when he won. But speaking of that, what do you think about Jaleel Hackett calling out Xander Zayas religiously and Xander is ignoring it? What do you think about that?
I mean that the movement's there, man. You know, I've talked with his dad, coach there, Bernard Hackett, a few times about it, and they're really pushing for the fight. As Coach Bernard's been saying, particularly from yesterday, you go over like a lot of the fighters that are currently within the WBO rankings. A number of them either have fights already, have already fought, or wouldn't necessarily accept the fight with Xander Zayas over in Puerto Rico because it would kind of like the pay wouldn't necessarily be good, for it. So, Jaleel's like saying, hey, you know what? I'll be open to fighting you in Puerto Rico. I know what the financial situation would be, but I don't care. I want to, have that particular shot. You know what I mean? So, people are pushing. Some people are pushing for it. I'll see, how far it goes on that.
Yeah, who you think will win that, John? Though.
Like, hey, I gotta back my guy Lil on this one.
Yeah, for sure.
Because here he will be able to showcase, his whole talent on display. I think he'd have the advantage in the speed department. And for Xander, like I don't know how many fights I've like seen live with Xander, right? But I haven't necessarily seen that. Some would say like next level, or that switch that says okay,
the next gear,
the next gear that says I'm much better than that opponent. Or if you just being honest, if you go to like a Xander fight, sometimes I mean he could have action and things like that, but you kind of like expect a certain result with Xander Zayas, right? So I'm gonna be like up front. What was it? The February 14th show I think he had there. When it was against who was the undefeated guy that he had? I forgot the dude's name there real quick, but Slava Spoma, that's who it was, right? I shouldn't be able to forget that because Roy Jones was his head trainer. Right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
but you knew he was about to get beat with Roy's training.
That's nah. Come on now.
Roy's
a pretty good trainer. If
you want to guarantee
man.
you're gonna get your ass whooped, go get Roy Jones to be your trainer. Man.
Come on, man.
Go get.
But like,
you must have forgot.
Right. Hey man, that night we all knew that Slava Spoma was not nice with these, but even before the fight, I was like, you know what? I'm thinking this is gonna be like an easy, decision for Xander Zayas. And then, all of a sudden it looked like, round 8, round 9, it looked like it was too much. And then the referee stopped the fight. And I'm like, oh, what? He stopped the fight. Dang, I mean, so we got a TKO victory. But like that, like you kind of like see what Xander Zayas is, at this point. So yeah, I would have to say.
So you're basically saying it without saying it that he was made.
But hey, Top Rank has the MO of doing that. I mean, props to their matches.
Nice at
they
that.
have Hall of Fame matches.
You see what they did with Chris Colbert? I thought Chris Colbert was a bad boy until I seen him sleep. I did. You didn't see him fall asleep when he fought El Rayo?
Yeah,
that was ugly.
Yeah,
and El Rayo's boxing source, that pose that Rayo did when he was That was
Like
legendary.
you have to go, man.
Well, that wasn't. That was one thing, right?
Yeah.
But that replay they had one time there where they had Chris Colbert knocked out or knocked down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to my guy, Patrice Boog Harris, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boog Harris there, and it's in the background, and he's like, "Damn." I was like, "Oh man,
Oh man!"
wow. Yeah.
Shout out, Chris Colbert, man.
So
He's
let me ask
fighting on October 18th, man. He's gonna be out there in Brooklyn.
he gonna get beat there. I'm gonna be in
Nah.
the house. You gonna be in the house?
Yeah, I'm gonna be out there for that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go in there and see what's left of Danny Garcia. See what's left of him.
That man is done. He'll never be the same.
Free brutal.
Well, Free said he's
I
completely
mean, I wasn't
Completely
really sold
done.
on
Yeah,
Chris Colbert as it was. I wasn't really sold on him. He wasn't a knockout guy, but he was talking like he was knocking everybody out. And then he got in there with Arroyo, and I think the first fight, Arroyo got cheated out of that first fight. In my opinion, I thought Arroyo won that fight.
Me
And
too.
then the second fight, Arroyo said, "Man, forget the judges. I'm gonna make sure they don't cheat me out of this one."
Chris Colbert can box, though. He can fight, though, man. He has some.
No. He just looked good. Shout out to Top Rank. They got the best matchmakers of all time.
Yeah, I'm
over
about to say, if you look at the opponents, he was in there with guys he's supposed to look good against.
Yeah, true that.
there.
I mean,
He fought a couple of dudes that work at the furniture store, man. So
I mean,
of course he
to
gonna
be
look
honest
good.
with you,
That's crazy.
I think the only notable fight he had was Arroyo. I'm trying to think who else
That was it.
Chris Colbert fought.
That was it.
Like before he lost to Hector.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He did fight Hector Garcia. He lost that one too.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, you're
Yeah.
right. Hector did whoop his ass. Woo.
I forgot
And
about that
Hector
one.
is trash, man. But let me ask you this though,
Nah.
before you get out of here, man. What do you think about how PBC kind of rewards their Spanish fighters? Where if you're a Spanish fighter for PBC, if you beat somebody, you gotta go fight the biggest, baddest nigga they got. Like where they put El Rayo in there after beating Pitbull Cruz unexpectedly in there with Gary Antoine. Was that like a slap in the face, you think, for El Rayo?
Ooh, some people think it is.
I'm asking you, man, because I know you're a
I got
politician.
folks that saying that it was almost like a type of punishment of sorts for Rayo or whatever it was, mainly from I think either having a thing where he was like offered I think the fight with Tank Davis or something like that, but
Yeah, he turned it down.
yeah, but he also had something going on with his former trainer or whatever it is there with Jose Senior. So it was like after that they said, okay, we'll put you in here against a Gary Antoine Russell. I'm like, man, God, tough. Like especially Antoine Russell, coming off that close decision loss to Alberto Cuello. And man, when I say that Antoine said that he's like was right in the gym, he
mashed the gas, bro.
He was right in the gym. I think it was the next day after they had that conference call, like he was in the gym. I was like, nah, man, he wasn't playing around one bit when it came to that fight against El Rayo. That's why you saw the performance that you did there with
Cobra got back-to-back stoppage losses.
What who Rayo?
He got knocked out by Arroyo, then he got knocked out, then he got TKO by some Omar Gomez.
You mean Chris Colbert? Yeah.
Damn, I ain't know he coming off. He got a 12-round, an 8-round fight against a 12-8 guy, Blaise Carrillo.
Yeah,
Carrillo.
Blas Ezekiel Carrillo. Yeah.
But,
I forgot about that Gomez guy or that James Gomez.
Yeah, that was
forgot about that
on Pro Box, bro. Like
yeah,
he was getting beat up, man.
But
Boxing source, you know. Go ahead, my bad, Free. Go ahead.
Not bad, Free.
Going back to what you said about Arroyo being put in there with Antoine. If you really look at it, at that time, PBC was putting all of their top fighters against each other. Because first they had Rolly win the title, and then they put Pitbull Cruz in there with Rolly. Rolly beat him. Then they put El Rayo in there with Pitbull. El Rayo beat him, and then they put Antoine in there with El Rayo, and Antoine beat El Rayo. And that was all of their top 140 guys that they had, and they all got a chance to fight for the title.
Yeah, Pitbull beat the dog crap out of Rolly. That was nasty.
Yeah, who was the
Yeah,
They
that was ugly.
had the nerve. They had the nerve to interview him boxing shows. I thought that was sick. They interviewed that dude. He was half asleep, man. I was like, damn. What'd he say? Merry Christmas, everybody.
You laugh at Rolly all you want. Rolly's the welterweight champion of the world.
Hey, yo, man, he's welterweight champion of the world. But they say that he may end up fighting Emmanuel Dapijan Pacquiao. God.
Yeah, they
They
did
said
that
they said
Pacquiao
it's a
fight.
talk that he might be fighting Manny.
Yeah, that's what he
they said.
said.
Fight Manny. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Manny
Free got a little
Pacquiao.
bit of a delay.
Manny
He got-
Pacquiao. And like I told B3 earlier, if anybody deserved to have a fight with Manny Pacquiao, is Rolly Romero. I don't think none of the other champions should be fighting Manny Pacquiao. Rolly Romero is probably the only one that deserves a fight with Manny Pacquiao because at this point in time, nobody really cares to see Manny Pacquiao in the ring anymore, and nobody really talks about Rolly like that to see him in the ring. So he probably the only one that deserves to get in a
Shit,
ring
I
with
want to
Manny
see
Pacquiao.
Rolly. Rolly boxed an excellent fight in his last fight. I
No,
want
what
to
I'm
see.
saying is,
I think Ryan sucks though.
no,
I
what
think
I'm
we got to
saying
be
is,
honest with that.
what I'm saying is, with Rolly getting in the ring with Manny Pacquiao, if he goes in there and knock out Manny Pacquiao, that will boost Rolly's name,
Rolly
and
gonna be
now
talking so much
Rolly
Hey,
starts to become a household
Boy.
name.
listen, I said,
shit.
if Rolly Romero beats Manny Pacquiao and it could be here for December, he could make a case for being fighter of the year.
Oh God, yeah,
That's
That's a
what I'm
fact.
saying.
That's a
what I'm
I
fact.
saying.
never even thought about that. With
That's what I'm saying.
a Ryan Garcia unanimous
Ryan
decision
Garcia and
win.
Manny Pacquiao, hey,
Pacquiao.
That's what I'm saying. That fight right there, he's the only one that deserves a fight with Manny Pacquiao. It can boost Rolly Romero's name, and people will start paying attention to Rolly Romero.
yeah, because I mean, the thing about it was they made that matchup with Ryan Garcia thinking that Rolly would be a lick, man. That's why they had it before that WBA belt. They thought that Ryan Garcia would get it and kind of like boost the I guess the notoriety or something like that. But with Ryan, they would have the money behind it. But then when Rolly Romero just kind of like made him look like a novice, bro. And
Because he is.
the plans. Well, yeah, that is
You know the thing, boxing source. I think people don't realize that time that Ryan missed in 2020. Shout out to Monkey Dan for pointing this out. He really kind of got left in the dust when he took that time off. Shakur got better, Devin got better, Tank got better, and I think that's just what happened in that. But let me ask you this, man, before we let you go, man. I know you're a busy brother. It's getting late. What do you think about Jake Paul, Cleveland's own, which we got to say Cleveland runs boxing, as you know. What do you think about him going in there with Tank Davis?
This is something where he couldn't get Canelo. He couldn't get locked down with Anthony Joshua, but I think it was more about him not getting Canelo at the time. Like in March, I didn't realize it. Like I didn't see the play then, but that was what they were kind of like working on there from before the fight that took place at the Barclays Center on March 1st. It's just that many didn't expect that Roach would be able to do what he did. He showed up and he showed out, and it ended up getting a draw, which just being straight up, it shouldn't have been a draw. And with that being said, it's like, okay, I'm Tank Davis, and I got either this rematch with Lamont Rose Jr. or have this fight with Jake Paul. Like he's thinking, hey, you know what? That fight with Lamont Rose Jr. could be there, still be there, with the draw, whatever it is. So let me go ahead and get this with Jake Paul. This is guaranteed for me. So let me just go ahead and get this, and then come back for Lamont Rose Jr. I mean, that's the thing with like draws is that you could kind of like revisit the fight just about any time. But the thing is with the party of Lamont Rose Jr., they're saying that particular agreement that they had was a 2-fight deal or whatever it is, regardless of the results. So I still don't know like what the progress is for that, but they're supposed to have an announcement pretty soon when it comes to Lamont Rhodes Jr. though.
Speaking of that, so you think it's a slap in the face for Lamont to have to go in there and fight Pitbull Cruz at 140, come all the way from 130? You think that's a slap in the face after beating Tank? Shoot to my brother Dank Father. Shoot to my man, brother Bruce.
I don't think so because, like, for me, Pitbull is like shorter, almost like shorter than Tank, and he's able to be at 140 or whatever weight he's going to be for the super lightweight division. So, once they go ahead and announce that fight, I'm gonna lean towards Lamont Rhodes to get the win. I don't see like Pitbull Cruz is somebody that's like a overwhelming type of a fighter that Lamont Rhodes can't really handle. I mean, you did have Pitbull Cruz in a Fight of the Year candidate against Angel Fierro on February 1st. So I think the style for Lamont Rhodes Jr. he'll be able to properly deal with Isaac Cruz if they announce that for either San Antonio or wherever it is here for December of this year.
I don't think he's that good, to be honest. I think he's basic. I think he's easy to beat.
All you do is throw haymakers, man.
He's one of them guys, if you know how to box, all you got to do is box and turn him, bro.
Yeah, but the fight that he had against Angel Fierro, it was like one of the better matches that they were able to make at the time because they just looked at those two fighters and said those two styles together would make for a great fight. That's why, when they tried to set it up for July 19th for the rematch, like people were really looking forward to it. It was just that Angel Fierro was basically 147 pounds or even more than that by the time it was fight week. So ended up falling through.
So let me ask you this, man. Because one thing I know about my brother Boxing Source, man, he's a politician. He usually don't go too far. So let me ask you this about a fighter. Have you been disappointed at all in the way you've seen Boots in his career progress?
Nah. It's more about behind the scenes, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes fighters, no matter how talented they are, sometimes they could be in a situation where they're not able to get the opportunities that some people think that they would get. Him, it was more about timing more than anything else, right? Because he was able to climb the rankings there within the IBF or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. But that particular situation was kind of like locked down at the time with Errol Spence Jr. Like even before, Boots Ennis was able to be around like number 2 or number 1 in the IBF. They already had like a mandatory challenger for the IBF, but with Spence being a champion, being able to unify, they never went through and had him defend that mandatory for the IBF, right? So now with Boots, it was like, okay, he's there at number 1, and by the time he's there at number 1, you had to have undisputed, so it wouldn't have mattered if he was at IBF, WBO, or whatever. They were going to make sure that we had Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford for the undisputed welterweight championship. So once that happened, then he was like, okay, I want next. And given both of the statuses of both fighters, like they ain't going to necessarily, I would say go down financially. They were going to go up, right? So it was either going to be a rematch between those two, or they were going to move forward and, go to another division and have the plans that they have. And with Terrence Crawford, you see how that ended up, right? So with Boots, it's like, okay, I'm not able to get them. So I get the IBF belt. First defense was supposed to be against Cody Crowley. Cody Crowley's out. So he has to, fight David Evanesian, right? That happens. Then rematch with Karen, and we see their bad style. He wasn't able to, properly adjust. Then he has to fight against Iman Stanionis, and that is the Jerome Boots Ennis that a lot of people have seen and kind of like been talking about there. So with that being said, now he's moving up to 154. Has his upcoming fight in Philadelphia against Luis Malima. And then after that, we got to really see what's going to be going on with them because, you got all of these other fights that are going on at 154 right now. Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Eric Salubin on November 8th. You got, what is it? Sebastian Findor versus Keith Thurman on October 25th. You still have, the IBF champion looking for somebody to fight. He's the IBF champion and he hasn't had a fight in a year.
Who that?
Yeah, Bachman's a monster.
Bachman, right.
Had a fight since, what did I say about October 20 something there? I guess when he fought Tim Tszyu.
Yeah, that's nasty.
They're scared of him.
Nah, but they gotta get him some food though. They gotta feed him. They gotta get him they gotta keep him stay active if anything.
But that's the thing though, right? You gotta keep him active, and this goes to what I was talking about with Boots and his situation. With Backroom, he's under main events, and main events ain't the main events of 1990s and the early 2000s, right? So he's not able to get those opportunities. It's interesting because Backroom Murtazali had a mandatory challenger, and they had it ordered, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular fighter ended up fighting Virgil Ortiz Jr. on November 8th. So it's more about is the money there for Backroom Murtazali?
Nah, it definitely not.
The money ain't there. I mean,
I
think
because Lubin turned that fight down.
Look, I'll take it a step further. If it wasn't going to be Eric Salubin, the next person in line, Josh Kelly. Josh Kelly has been getting good pay for being in Riyadh season cards and fighting in Wembley Stadium against freaking Davies. He's saying he's getting more money fighting the Davies of the world or whatever it is, Ismail Davies or whatever, than fighting someone like a Backroom. So it's okay, then who's next out there for Backroom to fight? Nobody.
Yeah,
I think Jamel should really, now that he wants to come back, that should be his first fight back.
It should be his first fight back.
Yeah, I'm a Jamel Charlo fan, and I felt like when Majimov got the title and when Backroom when they both got their mandatory statuses, all of a sudden we fighting Canelo. I don't think that was by coincidence.
Because
but these Eastern European dudes, they scared of some of these fighters.
This was one of the mistakes on my part there last year, right? When they had that fight between Backroom and Tim Tszyu. I didn't know much about Backroom myself, so I thought, hey, Tim Tszyu would be able to get that win. And then Backroom just ended up beating him
dead.
Yeah, that was incredible.
So what you're saying is the belts don't matter. It's about the payday.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother D Free is against the sanctioning bodies, which is crazy.
Well, that's not true. That's not true.
It's not about
but I feel like it is about the belts, though, Boxing Source, because Abdullah Mason needs a belt. He gotta, Antoine Russell needs a belt. Them kind of certain fighters.
Those type of fighters need the belt. But when you have someone like a Santos Saul Alvarez Barragan, regardless if he was at 154, 160, or 168, right? Or like a Gervonta Tank Davis. He's been a WBA champion there at 135 pounds. Does anybody know when he's had a defense against a mandatory challenger?
Rolly Romero.
Maybe that counts as a mandatory. I mean,
no, that wasn't mandatory.
It was mandatory, but ever since then, we haven't seen anything, for Tank Davis yet, So, man.
Yeah, I mean, Rolly Romero, and then after he fought Rolly, he fought Ryan, and then after Ryan, he fought Frank Martin, and then he fought Lamont Roach.
That was all for the WBA free.
That he dragged.
All 130. Was for the Ryan fight wasn't for the WBA.
Yeah, that
they fought at a catchweight. But Lamont Roach and Frank Martin, those was both for his belt, but they wasn't mandatory. Lamont Roach, he got the fight because he moved up as a champion.
Yeah, he was a WBA.
Frank Martin was the number one for the WBA, but that fight wasn't mandated. They just went ahead and voluntarily negotiated a fight.
But let me ask you this, Boxing Source: when you see the maneuvering and the shucking and jiving, why do you think people like Mauricio Suleiman, who's been probably one of the greatest embarrassers we had in boxing in years on the sanctioned body side, why do you see so much hate towards him? But they want a guy like Dana White who made it clear, I'm not going to recognize the sanctioned bodies. I want the Muhammad Ali Act to go down. Why do people want the evil guy to take over? What do you got? What do you think about that, boxing source?
For those that are like on that, I guess on that side for Dana White, is more about they don't like having these multiple belts for multiple sanctioning bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you could have the WBC world champion, you could have the WBC interim champion, you could have the I don't know, the USBC champion or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe the WBA champion, the NABA champion, the WBA gold champion, the WBA interim champion, so on and so forth. So in some cases, some fans may be like, yo, there's too many belts around. There's too, many people out here saying that, they're a champion when they are just an interim champion, or they're the franchise champion, or anything like that. They want to have like one universal or one unilateral champion. So they might, go to the side of like Dana White of saying like, hey, we just have one champion, one fighter that we recognize as champion, and one ranking system that we go behind. But at the same time, though, is like, how are you going to be able to properly determine who is going to be able to fight for that? Because you still have to deal with the whole thing as far as like financials, getting the deal made, getting the deal done, all that type of stuff. So that like remains to be seen how they'll be able to try to pull that off. Because and with him trying to do modifications to the Muhammad Ali Act, and that's why he got called out, by Sean Patel there in that press conference, because he tried to pull that stuff over in California, and the number of people were not for it. So we'll see how far he gets with that.
Yeah. See,
speaking of that, what do you think about them going against something that really is probably the only protection for a fighter? What do you think about them going against something like that?
Well, it kind of stems from him having his involvement with UFC, and he's able to circumvent that in the UFC because of the way that he defines fighters that basically use their hands. So if he's able to circumvent that in mixed martial arts, he's going to try to do the same thing when it comes to boxing. But in order for him to do that, then he might not call it boxing. He might call it something else. So that would probably be the method of him getting around that, because it's, in place in every state. Every athletic commission puts that in place. It's all, they're through like the federal government and all that type of stuff too. So he's trying to see if there's like a way around it. And I don't know how. I don't think it's going to, work all too tough. At least I don't think it will work in the States. Now he might try it outside of the U.S., but here in the States, I don't think it's going to fly.
Right.
Rest in peace to John McCain, and shout out to Lindsey Graham, the authors of the Muhammad Ali Act. Go ahead, Freak.
Free fell down the steps, man.
No. He should be.
Yeah.
He's there. He's there.
Well, while Free getting his mic together, I think Free might be doing something. I'll ask you this.
You was asking me something?
No, I was saying, go ahead.
I was saying with that whole thing of him trying to get rid of the Muhammad Ali Act is so they can have control over the fighters and be able to make the fights and promote the fights like he does with the UFC. With him, the way he does it in the UFC, he is the promoter as well as the manager of these fighters. So he can say, okay, you're moving up, you're fighting this guy. The winner of that will fight this guy, and the winner of that will fight this guy. He can do that because of the way he has it set up, and that's what they're trying to do with the TKO. The problem that I have with the TKO, they have a money structure. They have a cap on how much money you can make. With these guys that's in the sport of boxing now, that's not going to fly with them. You're not going to put a cap on how much money they can make.
No.
That's why I keep telling. I don't think they're looking to get the guys from the sport of boxing. I think they're looking to get the guys from the amateurs and try to put them into the TKO. Because with the guys that's in the sport now, you're not going to put a Devin Haney, a Shakur Stevenson, a Tank Davis. You can't put a cap on how much money they can make, and it's not even $1 million. It's less than a million. I think they
Much
said the
less.
cap was like 750,000. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to tell these guys the most you can make is 750,000. And they're like, what? Nah, I was making $3-4 million fighting in the regular boxing industry. Now you talking about because I'm over here, I can only make 750,000. So I want to see how well it would do once it come into existence because it's going to be going against boxing. You got the
And
TKO, and then you have boxing. Those are going to
mhm.
be the two competitors. Who's gonna want to be in the TKO when they have a cap on how much money you can make, and then you have all of the stars that everybody knows is in the actual sport of boxing. So how can you compete with that? That's what I want to see. How you're going to be able to compete with the sport of boxing?
Now you think about that cap. Let's see
Mm-hmm.
if you kind of like have the same things that you would have like as a regular fighter that who I call as sole proprietors because they're basically a business within themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once they get their pay, regardless of where it comes from or what promotional company or whatever it is, they have to give a percentage out to whether there is a promoter themselves that put it up get a percentage out to the trainers, to the managers, to those that assist them in training and everything like that, the sparring partners, all that type of stuff. How is that going to be broken down under the TKO banner if you're going to have that particular cap? You know what I mean? So that's another thing that the fighters will have to deal with if they end up having to sign with TKO.
So let me ask you this. Another person that I think, and it breaks my heart to see, he's done even less than Boots in his. Like, what do you think about Virgil Ortiz? How disappointed are you in his career? Never became a champion. Just a complete waste of talent. What do you think about him?
In the welterweight division, he was able to get up to the point where he was like number 1 or number 2 in the WBO. But they didn't necessarily give him the opportunity to either fight for a world title or fight for even like an interim title or international title at 147 pounds. But at the same token, after that, he had the whole thing there with Rabdo, so you never got his fight that he would have had against Imanis Stanionis. That's why that whole fight was that like it took 12 months out of both of their careers pretty much in that sense. So he had to end up going up to 154. He's had fights against Frederick Lawson and like who was the guy that like Boots beat and like Crawford fought him. Like he fought him at 154 and then
Delorme.
Yeah, Thomas Delorme, right?
Yeah, Delorme.
And then, we had the fight that he had against Sergey Boachuk. Pretty good fight. Some people felt he won. Some people felt he lost. And
I felt Boachuk got off on that one.
Yeah.
He went down 3 times.
Yeah. So, yeah. One of them didn't count. It should have counted.
Yeah.
And then, we had his performance there against Israel Madrimov. And now he's going up here against Erickson Lubin, a well-established fighter there at 154 pounds. This is going to be interesting for Virgil Ortiz Jr. because, like, he's had that momentum that he had at 147, had these few fights at 154, but this could be like Erickson Lubin when Erickson Lubin was there in September of 2023 against Jesus Ramos Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus Ramos at the time, undefeated, was coming up. He had beat up a couple of young fighters out there within that division. They were building them up and everything like that. So they matched him up against Erickson Lubin. And it almost seemed like people were saying that Erickson Lubin was going to be like a lick there for Jesus Ramos. But Lubin was like, oh, hell no, nah. y'all ain't going to get me like that. And he kind of made Jesus Ramos seem like there was a lot for him to learn at that time. So he was able to get that win. Some people thought that Lubin lost. I was like, nah. Like
you did him though. What?
Yeah, you did him. So and I seen there live. It was like there were multiple times when Jesus Ramos was just looking like, walking towards him and not really doing anything. And then by the time he got within range, like Lubin was able to get a couple of punches in and then get out of the way. So yeah, I feel like Lubin won that fight.
And Lubin had been in some rumbles too. He didn't fought
I thought Ramos was kicking his ass.
Charlo. He fought Jason Rosario Banana. He fought Fondora. Luis Arias. He fought Ramos, and he beat his last fight. He knocked out an undefeated. What's that kid's name? The junior kid.
He been working. No,
Junior.
I don't want to take nothing from Lubin. Lubin is my guy. I'll never forget when he was stretched out by Jamel.
He was too premature.
And his arm was shaking. Remember how his arm was shaking?
That was scary.
I was like, that was nice. That was nice. I said Charlo's in his bag. The arm man, Woody hitting, and his arm just got suspended in the air.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I'll say this: when you look at Virgil Ortiz, and anybody knows me, know I love Virgil. I gotta say, he's got one of the worst careers I ever seen for a guy that talented.
That's tough.
There's a rapper named Saigon. I don't know if you ever heard of Saigon. He had the album with Just Blaze and never came out. If he don't get busy, he's going to be a what if story. Because my God, you talk about wasting your whole damn 20. Excuse my language, but he hasn't done. I gotta say, he hasn't done shit.
Well, he's picking it up in his last 3 fights, BVO. He got Boychuk, Majimov, and then Lubin coming.
No. Boychuk kicked his ass. He looked okay against Majimov, but Majimov was never that good anyway.
He beat up Mean Machine.
Hold on. Jamel made him seem like some type of boogeyman. He was never that. It was just that Jamel ran the Canelo, and people forget because he ducked Bakum and Majimov. That's what he did at 54. I'm just being honest. That's what he
knocked out Maurice Hooker and he stopped Mean Machine.
You just said Maurice Hooker?
I'm just saying he's got to knock him out.
Maurice Hooker is somewhere right now frying bluegill.
All right. His last 3 fights, BBO, Boychuk, Majimov, and now Lubin. Them last 3 fights are stepping it up, bro.
Bro, Virgil has done nothing.
Yeah, I feel you.
Nothing.
I'm with you. I'm not gonna disagree.
But Virgil should have got that. Go ahead.
That's why I said that fight, if he was able to have that fight with Stanionis in 2023, that would have really, we would have really seen where he would have been at, whether it would have been, 147 or 154, because even at that time, you had to see who was going to be out there from the rest of the crew. You already had, the thing with Spence and Crawford, like that was the top of the top there at 147 pounds, but you also had to see who would be the next guy. And that would have been one of those fights where you would have seen who could have been the next guy at 147 at the time, but it just never happened.
See, Boxing Source, you're a nice guy, so you won't say this. But let me say this, Boxing Source. Okay. If you think about Virgil Ortiz, there's no way him and Errol Spence wouldn't have made a ton of money in Texas. You would have had the black versus the Mexican. That would, and guess what? Virgil somehow didn't even do that.
Still could do it. He still could have tried it.
Errol Spence is half dead, man.
But
let me bring my brother.
But that was the thing when I was talking about when he had that opportunity being there at the top of the WBO rankings after defeating Maurice Hooker. Like, why not go after or
Virgil turned that down?
Yeah,
turn that down. But let me bring in my guy. We call him Varnell Hill, Boxing Source. Goodbye, man. Let me bring him in. Let me play his intro real quick.
I do it for the children. You can take the children and bounce them on their knees. Bounce them on the knee and then sing a melody. The Varnell man. Did you mean he's my...
Man, I apologize for being late.
This is a sick Negro.
I apologize for being late, but I always got to say, man, when we get brothers up here that I got a lot of love for, hey, man, I'm sub to your channel. Got a lot of love and respect. Hey, you be cooking, you know what I'm saying? You be out of order sometimes. I ain't gonna lie to you. You be out of order. But I love the way I love the way that you cook, the conversation that you have. You know what I'm saying? Man, it's just a pleasure to get the opportunity to have a conversation with you. And man, shout out to my brother Sombrero, aka BVO. Shout out to my brother Prize Fighter.
You already know.
Free. You know what I'm saying, man? Nothing but love and respect. It's always good to have great brothers up here. And like I say, man, you're doing a hell of a job with your show. And man, it's always nice to have somebody that we can talk to and cook with. Now you out of order. I'm gonna tell you what. Yeah, I'm just gonna tell the truth. Virgil Ortiz. I remember the time when Virgil Ortiz and his team said that we need 48 months, right, before we fight Boots. Do you remember that time?
Who? In reference to Virgil?
Yeah, his daddy said that. His daddy
Robert said that. Robert Garcia said that allegedly.
Oh yeah, Robert Garcia,
allegedly.
Virgil Ortiz Senior, whatever it was. Yeah.
He definitely said that.
So my thing is this today. In today's time that we living in, we trying our best to tell the truth. I try my best to tell the truth. People don't like my style, how I talk, my delivery, but you ain't catching me in half truths and lies. When he said that we need 48 months, is that not ducking?
This is the same Virgil Ortiz Jr. that supposedly said, what was that, about last November or whatever it was, when they had the little Latin night thing in Riyadh, that he said that he would be basically ready for a fight in February, and then supposedly called out Jerome Boots Ennis.
But you didn't answer the question.
In reference to who?
Let him finish, Doug. Let him finish.
Doug came in guns blazing.
You can't press my brother.
Doug came in guns blazing.
I don't know. No, I'm trying to figure out like where all of this is, like where it was going when it comes to Virgil Ortiz and Jerome Boots Ennis, because there are people that claim that Boots was not interested in a fight with Virgil Ortiz Jr. when they basically tried to pull a stunt of sorts when it came to Boots Ennis. Why are you talking about saying that you'll be prepared for a fight in February when you already know that Jerome Boots Ennis had a fight earlier in November? Your last fight was in August 10th of that year. You hadn't had another fight since then. So yeah, you could say that you're ready for a fight in February, but you're trying to get someone to fight you within a quick turnaround like that.
So yeah, Virgil, so we agree that Virgil is ducking the smoke.
I say that he is. Because we agree. Yeah. So that's not anything in reference to saying that Boots didn't want it. Like
I want to get outside of the ducking. I just had to ask that question first, but outside of that, I want to ask you this: stylistically, right? I think it's a bad style matchup for Virgil. I think Virgil fights a certain way. Boot style is all wrong for Virgil, in my opinion. But how would you break that fight down as far as it happening in the ring? Who would you pick to win? How would you break that fight down?
It's more about Boots in his like versatility. He could fight on both stances, one, but his speed is like it would be completely different than what Virgil Ortiz Jr. has seen. And the thing with Virgil Ortiz is he has his style and he's kind of like very comfortable in his style. And if you're able to see like what he's doing as far as like his mannerisms and be able to properly counter it, especially with the speed of Boots Ennis, that's going to be a problem, right? Like I've seen like Boots Ennis, working and doing things where he could like throw almost like a 3-punch combination with one hand, but he was just basically working with one hand at the time, right? I think with
And that's
Virgil,
what you do in sparring. You do that in sparring.
yeah. But the thing with Virgil is that I just don't see him putting like too many combinations together to the point where it would be something that would overwhelm someone like Jerron Ennis. I think the style with Jerron Ennis is that where he has problems is more of a guy with lots of movement. That's why people kind of like point to that Karen Chikagian matchup, because it's more about Chikagian moving in and out of the pocket, like moving sideways, and almost to the point where he's not necessarily, right there in front of you. I ain't necessarily saying all the time, but he'll kind of like give different looks that maybe a lot of fighters aren't necessarily used to. With Virgil Ortiz, you don't have to necessarily worry about all that.
So I think we both. And now I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm about to come with some smoke for you, but I think we both read Virgil. He get his butt whooped by Boots. I think we both agree on that, because the styles make fights, and
It's all wrong, like you said, Doug.
Virgil has the style, and Boots' style is all wrong for Virgil, in my opinion. I want to ask this, and this is kind of a sideways question. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Georgia boy. I want to put this out there from the beginning, so you know where I'm going with this. I'm a true Georgia boy, right? Warner Robins, Georgia. So Brian Norman Jr., right? You knew I was going with it when I said I was a Georgia boy. You knew I was going.
He got Devin.
Hey,
what?
Brian, hold on.
Don't do that,
Devin.
Don't do
Wait
that.
a minute.
We got Devin.
Let me ask my question.
We got Black Jesus, man. We got Black Jesus, man.
Hold on. Hey, Bossosaurus. This is the craziest thing, right? I've been rocking with Devin for the longest. I rock with Dev. I'm a Georgia boy. I rock with Junior. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my brother Greg Hackett. Had a chance when he came down to the city. You know what I'm saying? Had a chance to meet him. Niggas, niggas, they gonna bet me on all this shit anyways. Word. It is what it is. I want to ask this question, and man, we're gonna get into it, because me and you finna go back and forth. I say that respectfully, and man, I think you have a great boxing mind, so it ain't nothing personal. It's always boxing when we talk about it. But I want to get to the first thing. First things first.
Okay.
Junior versus
Like Jesus.
No. Well, we get to Dev in a second. I want to talk about Junior versus Boots first. I want to talk about that fight first.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see that playing out? Who would you pick? I know you would pick Boots, but how would you see it playing out? And what would Boots' advantages be against Junior, in your opinion?
I think it would be like more his I would say fluidity when it comes to combinations, punching, switching styles, quick twitch movement. It would be like fairly competitive there in the early rounds, but I think the thing with Boots is like he could do like a 1-2-1 or pretty much like a 3-punch combination there that could really throw off someone like Brian Norman Jr. There, if they're able to go up against each other. And I think that with right now, even with Brian Norman Jr. being able to kind of like gradually improve on each fight, I think he still hasn't gotten to the point where he could, get with someone like Jerome Boots Ennis. They were able to fight there at 147 pounds.
Okay, I ain't got no problem with it. Real quick, I want to ask before and panel, please allow me. And if y'all want to cut me off. But second question: Boots versus Bud. How would you see that fight playing out? And I'm gonna change the dynamic a tad bit. Instead of it being at 47, I'm gonna say at 60, simply because we done seen Crawford move up to 68. We done seen Boots move up to 6 or to 54. So them meeting at 60, how would you see that fight playing out?
At 60, I don't like. I mean, that would be. I think it's more about the experience level of Crawford. But I mean, I wouldn't necessarily know how Boots would be able to handle 160 pounds.
Okay.
The thing with Crawford here in his fight against Canelo at 168, he pretty much had like a full year to prepare for it, you know. And the thing is,
the man said he started getting ready for it in February. So respectfully, go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is like when you have a fight at a certain weight class, so to speak, if it's like higher than maybe that you fought at, one of the things that you don't necessarily have to work on either before camp or during camp is the whole cut and weight part. Like, we've had multiple stories over the years, whether it's been recent or, back in the days where, you'll have a fight at a contracted weight, but the fighter themselves like walk around at a certain weight to where they have to cut maybe 14 or 15 pounds in order to make weight, or even more than that. Recently we've, heard about stories of fighters that kind of like cut around 20 to 25 pounds in order to make weight. So you have someone like in Terrence Crawford who, if he has like a walk around weight of maybe 170 or 175, then he don't necessarily have to, get down that much in order to, either like make weight or whatever it is. So it's not like him getting down to 154 or 147. He didn't have to worry about that. So it was more about him working on, strategies and everything like that when it came to Canelo Alvarez. Probably would be the same thing here with Boots Ennis, is that, he would kind of like see what Boots Ennis his tendencies are and try to just work on that. And then, having Coach Bomac there, Coach Red, and Coach Esau, then they'll kind of see like what the
don't forget Bernie now. Don't like Andre Ward said, we can't leave Bernie out.
Shout out to BVO boxing. You understand? Check the boy out. Check the kid out. You understand?
Shout out to Bernie.
Last question for you, and I ain't gonna lie to you. I gotta pull up on you one day. When you live, I gotta pull up on you so we can argue. And when I say argue, it's really conversations and boxing opinions. But Devin versus Junior, how do you see that fight playing out? Who would you pick in that fight?
So we got Black Jesus, man. Tell him we got Black Jesus.
And mind you, I want to put this on. I got to put this on record. I'm a Georgia boy, right? I'm picking Junior, but you listen to anything I've ever talked about, I rock with Devin. I rock with Devin 100%. And I think it's a 50-50 fight. I can't wait for the fight. You know what I'm saying? I want to hear your opinion on it, though.
Boxer Sword, before you go, let me do this before you go. Let me play a quick commercial before you go.
All right.
On behalf of BVO Sports TV, we would like to thank our sponsor, Raycon, makers of the Raycon Everyday Earbuds, the perfect model for premium sound with active noise cancellation to block out distractions and transparency mode to keep you aware of your surroundings. They are the ideal for your everyday needs. Just visit rayconglobal.com. That's rayconglobal.com and elevate your listening experience.
Well, damn, BVO. Hey,
shout out to Raycon. If you want to get your Raycon, hold on. Shout out to Raycon. You go to raycon.com. We have a 20% off everything on site. You can put in BVO45. That's BVO45. Starting on October 18th, we have our official discount code. You can get 30% off, but everything 20% off site-wide. Shout out to Raycon for giving us a chance. My bad. Go ahead.
BVO, man, hook me up with the sponsor, man. I'm going to ask the question one more time. hey,
that's crazy.
I'm supposed to be his brother.
That's
BVO,
crazy.
Hey, that's my brother right there. Put me in the game, man. Respect me.
You in the game already, Dub.
Put me in, coach.
Put me in, coach.
Dub got one of the most lit channels out here, man. So he crazy right now. I'm surprised they ain't hit him up yet.
I want to go back real quick. I want to ask the question one more time. Fan of both of these guys. Who you got? You got Junior. You got Devin. Who are you picking to win the fight, and how do you see the fight happening? Regardless if you ain't got to pick. You ain't got to pick. How do you see that fight happening?
You have Devin Miles Haney there as the former undisputed lightweight champion, former WBC super lightweight champion.
Hold on, his middle name is Miles?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Had his bouts that he's had against the likes of George Kambosos Jr., Vasily Lomachenko, Regis Prograis, Jojo Diaz, Jorge Linares, and the like. He's been viewed as, by some to be potentially one of the top pound for pound fighters in the sport. You could have him around like the bottom 10 or maybe even below 10 or something like that. Officially has not lost a fight. You have Brian Norman Jr. Is undefeated. They're 28-0. Number of people, have seen him like since 2024. He had that no contest in 2024 against Anderson Boca Chica, but then people thought that he would have been a lick for Giovanni Santillan over in San Diego. It was basically like a hometown fight for Santillan, but he was like, nope, he ain't necessarily having that. And then having the emphatic knockout victory over Santillan and having the pose there. Was able to get the bout against Jared Cuevas earlier this year, March of this year, knockout victory there. Jin Sasaki, where he had a strong candidate for knockout of the year. All right. A number of people have said that this is a 50-50 fight. I am having trouble seeing it as a 50-50 fight, mainly because of what Norman has done here within his past few fights. And for Haney, it's more about him having that next level type of thing within his overall repertoire, right? He's had the close fight that he had against Vasily Lomachenko. Of course, that was a couple of years ago. Regis Prograis, clean sweep. Ryan Garcia fight is where it was like, okay, you're going up against someone that you're not necessarily, much bigger than. Like, he's around the same height, same size, pretty much has the speed. And yeah, you could talk about the whole thing about Ryan missing weight, Ryan having the supplements, all that type of stuff. But from a technical standpoint, I've seen issues there from Devin Haney that I shouldn't necessarily see from him. Like, you got to be more defensively sound in a few things, especially when people say Ryan Garcia isn't necessarily that like complete of a fighter. You know what he's there. You know what he's there to do. You know what to look for, and he's still able to do that against you. And then after that, in your fight against Jose Carlos Ramirez, like, there's things that people expect of you, especially against someone like Jose Ramirez, who isn't necessarily the guy that he was, who was a unified champion there at least 140 pounds, right? So with that being said, Brian Norman Jr., they're with a lot of confidence. They're around that same height, around that, same reach and things like that, and being able to like improve as he does within, over the course of his past few fights. I'm leaning towards Brian Norman Jr. for the win.
Amazing. And it's crazy because I didn't defend it and argue with you. Named the individual on YouTube. I done probably argued with him about Devin, right? But I agree with you. I think that it's a horrible style matchup for Devin. Even with and as you brought up the fight that happened, that's the Times Square fight.
Yeah, Ramirez.
I thought Jose Ramirez could have let his hands go a lot more in that fight, especially when he had Devin. He kind of walked Devin down, trapped him in certain areas of the corners, those type of things. But Devin was able to fight his way out of it. And even if you want to say that, Devin and me personally, I'm one of the guys, when I caught that fight, we call fights over here respectfully. Hey, put our fight calls. But when I caught it, I said, man, He's shuffling. I said that's damn much. I was shocked because that's not. People say Devin want to be a back foot fighter, but if you look at the majority of his fights, Devin come forward in fights. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the reasons I'm such a fan of him. He's a boxer. He also he don't mind fighting you. He ain't gonna fight you in the pocket like that, but he'll come forward, utilize his range, utilize his jab.
Yeah.
And what was so interesting to me, I thought it was the wrong game plan against Ryan Garcia. Before any of the performance or the PEDs, any of that, I was kind of shocked about it because I was like, bro, that's the wrong game plan. If you're gonna go out there and fight that dude, you got to make sure you holding the phone. You hold the phone against a nigga who gonna throw the hook against your ass.
Exactly.
So I think Devin, he will learn from it. My thing is everything that Ryan threw, right? And we knew when the hook hit him, you know what I'm saying? Bruh, you gotta get out of the way of the hook. With Junior, the difference is, and I think Junior has better footwork than Ramirez does. I don't think that Ramirez let his hands go, and this man being the same size. Hey, sometimes when you jab with a jabber, I think Junior jab is gonna be a tad bit tougher than Devin jab gonna be. When you break that fight down, when you break it down, how do you see it? And you kind of gave how you see it playing out, but how do you see? What's the path for victory for Devin? Let me put it that way. What's the path for victory for Devin?
The path for victory for Devin is that he would have to be able to see if Brian Norman Jr. has to basically like reset when it comes to his offense, but he has to be first, and in times he has to be last.
You can't be first. You can't be first and last and not get hit.
Well, yeah, that's the thing about it, is that you got to be able to be, if you can. But the way to do that is if you have like any type of reach advantage, then maybe you could try that, you know. But he's gonna have to be first when it comes to throwing the jab, and you know, be very assertive with the jab. You know, like you mentioned there, you know, it didn't happen in a fight against Jose Ramirez, but usually with Devin Haney, he's more of like a front foot type of guy to try to, you know, establish that jab, establish reach and everything like that. So he would have to, you know, be able to get his jab going early and be, you know, very active with it. I don't think like something to the point of where he was moving around the ring like he did against Jose Ramirez. That's not going to necessarily, you know, work all too well there for him against Brian Norman Jr. He's going to have to show or establish early that he can, you know, be able to send a message from an offensive perspective or offensive standpoint very early there. And then, you know, be able to kind of like see if he can be better, you know, better off defensively. Like you said, hold the phone, because, you know, we know that Brian Norman Jr. Is known for, you know, throwing and landing the hooks, whether it's, you know, coming from both hands. So he's going to have to be more defensively sound, either roll with punches or try to, you know, block them and things like that. So I think for him, for Haney, that is, he would have to, you know, kind of like establish that early. Unless if it's something to the point where he might come in like a little bit heavy, if he feels comfortable coming in, you know, going in this fight heavy a little bit, and then try to, you know, be able to, I wouldn't necessarily say outmuscle Brian Norman Jr., but at least try to get to something where he makes Brian Norman Jr. not be able to throw as many punches over the course of the fight that maybe Norman would expect.
Is this a
Marcus, let me ask you this real quick. Now, I know you're a boxing historian, man.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see Bernard Hopkins versus Felix Trinidad?
Yeah.
So you know this is going to be easy work for Devin Black Jesus Haney, because we're not going to play with him. We're not going to play with him. We're going to take that left hand.
Who is we? Who is
and
we?
We're going to beat him up.
Who is we?
Team Haney, baby. I got a mouse in my pocket. It's we.
Man, hold on, wait a minute. I was a Devin fan before you ever was a Devin fan, nigga. and now it's weak.
So you hear him call me? You hear him call me nigga? This dude crazy.
That's what I'm gonna call you. Hey, I love you. Hey, you my brother. You my brother.
Whoa,
but I'm gonna call you. No. I'm gonna call you what you is.
This is a sick Negro.
I'm gonna call you what you is. You my brother.
You hear that? I'm a jig. I'm a nigga. You see all that? Wow, I'm a raccoon. All because I say I like Devin Haney.
Shout out to Khalid Muhammad, man. Shout out to Khalid Muhammad.
Hey, Khalid Muhammad. Hey, real quick, real quick, shout out to Khalid Muhammad because that's one of the great brothers. I still listen to some of his speeches today, and shout out to the great Khalid. Shout out to him. But BVL, you out of order. You out of order.
We seen that boxing story, didn't we see that? We see Bernard Executioner Hopkins from Philadelphia show us Felix was nothing. Nobody.
Nah, man. No.
We can't see that again with Black Jesus Haney.
Hopkins was on something else, man.
But what he's trying to do right now, he's comparing things that I understand. If we compare things similar, right? If there's similar situations, I understand it. These aren't similar situations.
Yeah.
Would you say that the comparison that he's giving? Would you boxing source? Would you say that that's a compare or a similar comparison? Him talking about Felix versus Oscar versus Devin and Junior. Would you say that's a similar?
No, not Oscar, but Bernard Hopkins.
Bernard.
Yeah, nah.
It's not similar.
Nah.
See how y'all moving the goalposts?
Now, bro, you got the goalpost in your back pocket and you still running. You running around with the goalpost. No, we're not gonna have the nonsense up here.
Now you see what he just did. You see he tried to go against us. He forgot me and you together, man. Me and you brothers, man. You gotta watch this guy, man. People want to rob us. You gotta watch this guy.
Hold on, BVL. I ain't your brother.
You my brother, but I was saying you trying to move the goalposts on us, man.
No, you got the goalpost in your back pocket and you running with it right now. You running around with the goalpost.
Nah, if he going like Bernard did.
Hold on, BVL. The brother just said, correct me if I'm wrong, source.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a similar comparison in your opinion.
Yeah, it's not.
So I'm like, what are we doing? You're the one moving the goalposts.
See, you see how you did me, man. I didn't get to finish, boxing. So you see how you did me. I didn't get to finish, man. But go ahead. What do you think, man? So you basically saying you said from what I'm listening to you saying you're going to pick Brian Norman Jr. unproven against the guy who's fought the who's who of the division for the last 8 or 9 years.
I'm picking a guy that is at 147 pounds that has 22 stoppage victories within his 28 victories.
Mm-hmm.
In comparison to a fighter that has competed at 135 and 140 pounds and hasn't necessarily had a stoppage victory since 2019 at the theater at Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of said this same thing when we brought up Xander Zayas, who is the current WBO, as they say, light middleweight champion, that he doesn't necessarily have that second gear. Mm-hmm. For Devin Haney, I don't see that second gear to where he's like, yo, you know what, I can go in there and I could hurt the opponent that I'm stepping up against. And I'm just, leaning towards Brian Norman Jr. being able to, hurt and affect Devin Haney. That's why I said, with the key to victory for Devin Haney, he has to be able to send a message that would throw off or surprise Brian Norman Jr. to say like, hey, either it's a speed or it's a timing or it's a little bit of, both speed and power that says, I did not expect this from Devin Haney, because Brian Norman Jr. and of course, Brian Norman Sr. is going there with that confidence that Devin Haney really doesn't have much that could really affect us there in the ring.
I want to ask this question real quick. Who has, in your opinion, right? We know, and one of the things I love about Devin, Bill, they bring other guys into as far as training goes. They bring those We done seen him being trained by Ben Davison. I think, in my personal opinion, I think Ben Davison was the best trainer that Devin has ever had. That's just my opinion. You got, I believe, what's my boy name, man?
Yoel Judah.
No, not Judah.
Mickey Bay.
Mickey Bay done been there, but I'm talking about who there now.
Sugar Shane Mosley.
Shane Mosley. Shane Mosley is in the camp now.
Yeah.
I love that they always bring in different guys. Who do you think? And I can't say that about Junior. Outside of senior, I don't know who else trained in junior. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Georgia boy, so I try to find that stuff out, but I ain't seen nothing else outside of senior. Who do you give the training aspect to? Because I think that's a big point. And as far as fighters go, who do you give that advantage to?
Overall, I usually side with the fighter that has the team that they've been with the longest. But the thing here with Devin Haney having these multitude of chief seconds and things like that, I don't know what to
You got to get Bill out of there. Just say it. You got to get Bill out of there. Go ahead.
I mean, some people say you got to get Bill out of there. What I found interesting in reference to Devin Haney's fight against Jose Ramirez was, you had Shane Mosley Jr. out there, right?
And Bill said, run around the ring.
and he pretty much had a certain level of preparation for the fight, and then the fight actually happens, and Shane Mosley sees what's going on. And it's like, what we
ain't trained on none of this.
We didn't train on none of this, right? And now I thought that was kind of funny, but live, I thought it was even funny. I thought it was weird with what Devin Haney was doing, because I thought it almost seemed like a style that was different, but I kind of put it towards Shakur Stevenson at the time, who was in attendance for that, right? And I thought Shakur Stevenson was gonna be like, my guy Soldier Boy. He copied my whole fucking flow. Word for more. I was like, man, what is going on here? I just feel like the familiarity that you would have with a certain team, and that you've been around them for some time, that kind of gives you a level of comfortability. That's why a lot of people point to who is the current number one, of course, consensus pound for pound fighter right there on the sport right now, in Terrence Crawford, right? And he's had Coach Bomac, Esau Dieguez, Red Spikes, and Bernie the Boxer.
Hey, I was gonna say, don't forget Bernie now. Don't forget Bernie.
Yeah, since 21 Jump Street. So I think that if you're gonna have with Devin, if he's gonna have someone like Shane Mosley Sr. there with them, then you got to be able to see what that element is in order to add to his game. So there, I would have to see where that is, and particularly early.
I want to ask this, and it's interesting you said that, because, like I said, I was just on. Shout out to my sister Jab Queen. I was just on her panel. Me and her, we argue all the time about weight. You know what I'm saying? I always say the first thing I tell her is, you can't tell me nothing about fair, because fair is the place that they judge pigs, right? But weight, you know what I'm saying? Bud, he talked about him being at a certain weight, knowing how to cut weight and be comfortable, and then also knowing that I didn't have to cut as much weight going up to 68. Exactly. I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you this. Do you the first question, and do you believe in weight bullying? Do you believe in that?
Ooh, that's a great question. I wouldn't know. To be honest with you, I wouldn't know how to answer that, because it's more about what the fighter feels like they're comfortable with. I mean, sometimes if they feel like they perform at a great level, like say for example at 154 pounds, and they walk around at 180. You know, if it's at 160, they might not feel like they could, be as fluent, whether it comes to throwing punches or moving around. So they kind of like have their like an extended period of their careers being at 154, or like if you're walking around at 170 and you fight at 147. So, the whole thing about like weight bullying, I mean, some people kind of like you see that because of how some fighters rehydrate and what they rehydrate to. But if they're able to make 147 and they're comfortable making 147 pounds, then, that is what that is. And sometimes that's why, even with the whole weight bullying stuff or whatever it is, sometimes if they're involved with the sanctioning bodies, they have rules that kind of nullify that, particularly IBF, with their 10 pound rehydration. So
they got that nickname, Inconvenience Black Fighters. That's what we call the IBF.
Well, you out of order.
Well, let me say this real quick, Boxer Sword.
Hold on. Let me get in here. We don't
so
need.
Boxer Sword.
We got a good conversation going on.
Hold on.
You out of order.
I want to get in here because we've been holding my brother for a long time.
Well, we good, man. We good.
Okay, I want you to say, hey, BBO Obama to the doghouse, nigga kept me out all night. I don't want you to say that. But go ahead, Doug. I'll come after he get done. I'll go after Doug get done. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, I think we having a good conversation. I think this is real boxing talk right here that and I think a lot of these conversations have to be had. You know what I'm saying? Because I agree with him. If you make the weight, you make the weight. You know what I'm saying? I think you lose more cutting weight than you gain. You know what I'm saying? Let me ask you about that. As far as cutting weight, I sat up there and I done had to argue about this all day earlier before I jumped on this panel. Shout out to my brother BVO. When you cut weight and say you lose 30 pounds, right? Whatever the weight is, I don't believe in the sport of boxing. I always say there's no such thing as a bully in the sport of boxing. That's my opinion. If you cut weight, you know what I'm saying? If you're cutting it, the majority of the time, in my personal opinion, it's a detriment to you. What's your thoughts on you depleting yourself? Do you think it's more weight cutting? Do you think it gives you more of an advantage, or do you think that you lose more in those situations?
I mean, sometimes you could lose more in those situations depending on your I guess like how long you've been in the game.
Right.
I'll go with like a couple of recent examples or something like that. Like even before you had Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford there, Errol Spence had like the 1 year where he fought Mikey Garcia and Sean Porter. And he mentioned at that point that he was like well above 180 pounds trying to get down to 147. When you get to that level and trying to cut almost 35 to 40 pounds, that really can hurt you, because you're going to be spending so much time trying to cut that weight, and you might not have the energy that you would really need to perform at an optimal level, or you get to the point where you can't necessarily cut that weight anymore. Or in another example, I mean, you talk about Devin Haney, right? With Devin Haney at 135, there was only a certain point where he could, comfortably make 135 pounds without, really kind of like, starving himself. That's why people saw him in that picture there against George Kambosos Jr., right? And then even after that, he was still there to make 135 at least one more time against Vasyl Lomachenko. But those type of instances could be really, dangerous, because you're not going to be able to perform at an optimal level, and it could affect you in the ring, whether, you kind of could eke out a win, or you could end up losing because of you spending so much time trying to cut weight.
So do you think that's the same thing? From what you sound like you're saying, that's the same thing a lot of people have surmise happened to Riddick Bowe, where they said Big Daddy Bowe would have these fat camps. He would shrink himself down. And now you see him, a guy who really didn't get hit like that, speak with slow speech. What do you think that contributed to that as well?
I mean, it could. I mean, he's a guy that, what was it? Coach Kenny Ellis like compared me to or something like that. But I think, that kind of like affected him, in the latter part of his career because, what was it? Him with Eddie Futch, man, like Riddick Bowe was my guy there in the 90s. Like I think that he was, the combination of having the skill and the size to really compete against any of the heavyweights there that particular era. But once he got to the point where he was gaining a lot of weight, that really affected him when it came to timing and stuff like that. So that's one thing you have to be careful for, especially if you have like a long time in between fights, that you have to make sure that you could get your weight to a certain level so that when you do get a call that you're going to have a fight that you'll be properly ready for it.
I met a fighter recently, and he told me something. I want to see if you can confirm it because I know you've been in the game a long time and you do great work. He said that he used to eat ice chips and that it's been times he would lose 70 pounds in 1 year. And he said it really, really, now he's an older guy. He said it really, really now his body is not the same from cutting that weight and starving himself. Because I've never heard of that, but he would eat ice chips. And then he would blow back up. Then he eat ice chips again, get down. And he just said his body really, has suffered from going up and down the way. You think that's a true thing, or you think that was just an excuse?
Yeah, metabolism. I mean, it's all across the board. Sometimes the body isn't able to properly like break down certain foods or whatever you eat or drink like you used to. You know what I mean? So if you like have something that you use that kind of like got you to cut weight, then that could really affect how your overall metabolism and how you kind of like digest things there later on in your life. So having that at that point, I guess for that particular fighter, that really affected them in the long run. Because sometimes if you're able to eat that chocolate chip cookie, but then that chocolate chip cookie could get you to gain 5 pounds off rip. So sometimes you got to be careful with that.
So speaking of this, I want to ask you this, and then I'm gonna bring my brother Dub back in. Now we seen.
Hold on, you done froze
Crawford.
me out. You done froze me out, man. You done froze me out.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hey, Source. You see what they do to the good ones, man. They freeze a nigga out, man. They freeze a nigga out.
They shut you up, man. They shut you up.
You seen them. They done censored me and everything. Go ahead, BBO. Go ahead.
Man. This guy is rough, man.
Go ahead, man.
This is a sick Negro.
Man.
I'm a sick Negro for asking good questions.
Man, come on, man. They hit you with
You out of order.
But let me ask you this.
I said,
So speaking of that,
they using it against me. You see how they do you? This how they do you, man. Go ahead.
We seen a guy go 3 weight classes up. And shout out to one of my brothers, man, from Philadelphia. He brought this up. What do you think about a man going up technically pretty much 3 weight classes and being in business with probably one of the most vile human beings on earth, and Victor Conte?
We're not gonna
hold on,
because he out of order. He asked the question out of order. He out of order asking the question.
Hold on, Doug. You out of order, man.
No, you out of order.
You out of order.
All right.
My bad. He out of order. My bad. So we seen him, this young man ruined Marion Jones' career. Apparently, Sugar Shane Mosley said he was shot in the ass and didn't know. So what do you think about Bud Crawford, Clarissa Shields, Marky Garcia, people who keep moving up in weight, being part of the snack program?
We're not gonna allow you to answer that, Boxing Source. We want to protect you over here. You know what I'm saying? We
He's a big boy. He can answer that question.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
There are a multitude of fighters that have been part of or participated in the snack program. Not just Terrence Crawford, not just Clarissa Shields, or who else you like mentioned. You had was it Demetrius Andre that's been part of it. You have Devin Haney that's been a part of it. Multitude of others. My thing is that whether people have accusations or not, the thing about it is that once you do have a testing program and you openly participate in that testing program, they're the ones that are supposed to say, hey, this is not necessarily good. This is not necessarily right. Now, as we know, whether it's boxing, track, basketball, or whatever, you could be able to go around the rules. But my thing is this: if they haven't been caught, then you can't say much about them.
Yikes.
See,
I'll say, hold on, Doug.
You out of order.
Let me finish.
Now, the thing about it is too, like I said, a multitude of fighters have been under the snack program. So
hold on.
The thing is, if they haven't been tested positive, then you can't really say much about it.
Why didn't we have these same conversations when Boo Boo Andrade, when he moved up and lost? You know what I'm saying? Nobody didn't bring up the snack program.
David was big as a house. Here we
go.
David was as big as a house.
He's not going to let me finish.
David was huge.
Go ahead.
David looked like he was about 220 pounds that night. You know that.
You see what they do to the black man.
But let me say this.
He said this is how they treat the black man around here.
Hey, you heard him call me raccoon, all that crazy stuff.
I ain't call you nothing.
Hey, he didn't even say nigga. He put a hard ER on it.
You see how they do you?
So let me ask you this. Now, and in no way, because I don't want Buddy to call me cussing me out. In no way am I saying Bud Crawford is guilty of anything.
Right.
But there's a young man named Barry Bonds, my favorite baseball player of all time, who's currently not in the Hall of Fame. But they said, even without a positive test, they said that young man was on some things that enhanced his performance. So I'm just wondering how a guy supposedly from 135 comes all the way, fights the baddest nigga in the world, beats him dead. And I don't know if you remember that famous press conference with Jamal Charlo, sound like he was
his favorite player. He doing the same thing to these boxers. Do you not see this?
Hold on, let me say this. You got to remember this. We seen Jamal Charlo. You remember when Jamal Charlo did that press conference, and he kind of said, "I don't know if they're cheating, but I'm sure Victor Conte, who's a top tier scientist, can get it right to the level." And we all know he influenced a lot of the testing programs that we have in boxing now. VADA and WADA, he has something to do with setting up this infrastructure. So I'm just wondering, does you as a boxing fan wonder that looks a little fishy? That's all I'm saying. That's what we got to be objective when we say this.
Is he not doing the same thing that they did to Barry Bonds to these fighters? Is he not doing that right now?
I want boxing source go.
I just said I want him to answer, and then I got a question for BBO.
You got Barry Bonds, and for some he was like a favorite player, but for others, he wasn't like they weren't necessarily a fan of him. I wasn't necessarily a fan of him, but that's only because I'm an Atlanta Braves fan. So when he was with the Pittsburgh Pirates and Bobby Bonilla, then
shout out to the Braves,
and then also when he was
one World Series with all division titles, y'all did great.
Right, but the thing about it is that with baseball, like I don't necessarily really care too much about baseball when it comes to that, because if it wasn't really for Bonds, they never caught him with it. But if it wasn't for McGuire, Sosa, Palmeiro, or all of those guys doing what they did, baseball wouldn't have been able to get to the level that they were able to get to. Okay.
Yeah.
So for them, that was overall a beneficial move for them. Okay. Now, with the thing with the boxing stuff is, like I said, you got VADA, you got WADA, you got multiple, tests and protocols that people got to follow. Okay. If they're clean, they're clean. If they're not, they get caught with it. You talk about this thing here with, as I say, Santos or Alvarez Barragan. He in the past has been caught with illegal substances, so I really don't, give that much thing there. And like I said, that was more of like a style issue because you got someone in Terrence Allen Crawford who like initially fought around 138 to 135 pounds, but also with Canelo, he fought at like 15 years old at like 147 or a little bit, above that.
140.
But he's a fighter that's been in the game for 20 years. So I didn't think that he was at a point to fight at an optimal level. I mean, I've seen that in his fights against Jaime Munguia, Edgar Berlanga, not Caleb Plant, but who was it? It was like another fighter that he had that was his WBO mandatory. But like those guys, you would expect Canelo Alvarez to easily dispatch, and he wasn't able to do that. And then you had the fight against William Skull, where he should have been able to easily dispatch William Skull. I didn't see that. I didn't see him.
The guy who didn't engage?
Huh?
The guy who didn't engage?
The guy who didn't engage, yes. But also with Canelo Alvarez, like in some instances, a guy like a William Skull, you should be able to do a multitude of things in order to dispatch of a William Skull. And him not being able to do that, and him having style issues against the likes of Erislandy Lara, southpaw.
Remember that fight where he ran from him? He ran from Canelo?
Man, stop lying to the people, man. Stop lying to the people.
He didn't. I'll just say this. On Tuesday, let's see if it'll be next Tuesday. But on Tuesday, you could go on the channel, the Boxing Source channel, when we have Coach Ronnie Shields, and then you could see about making a statement about Erislandy Lara running from Canelo, and then you'll see how that goes. But like I said, I mean, I just felt like that was just a bad style matchup for Canelo Alvarez going up against Terrence Crawford. So the whole thing with the weight difference, I didn't really mind all that. I didn't think it was anything as far as like any other outside factors. I just thought it would be a matchup with a guy in Terrence Crawford that has had much less wear and tear on his body than Canelo Alvarez did.
So I'll tell you.
So when you see Canelo, who did all the heavy lifting, fighting William Skull, who was big as hell, didn't engage, made the fight boring. I think Canelo set a record that was held by Shakur for least punches thrown around because William Skull was that terrified of the man. And then you had some pickle pullers who say Canelo lost. I'm just surprised, and this is because I respect you so much. You're my guy, man. I'm just shocked that you're not looking at a dude coming from 147, beating the hell out of the 168-pound champion, and he's known to be with a known drug cheat. Not somebody we making this up about. I'm talking about Victor Conte.
We and Boxing Source, I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes, and we love to have our guests on the show. You know what I'm saying? We appreciate you. I gotta save you from this one because the question that was just asked to you was so motherfucking loaded. It was so loaded that I gotta say, hold man.
Hold on, you're a big boy, man. You can answer the question, man.
No,
Come on, Boxing Source, tell him, man.
We not finna allow it. We not finna allow him to get into no nonsense like this.
He said the question was low. When you said that question, it's a question.
Like I said, we know about what goes on within the sport. I just like I said, I mean, if they agree to it, if they go through what they go through, then the fight is what the fight is. So what you may have seen before the fight or after the fight, we haven't seen anything happen since. Then you just got to roll with it. I'm not putting any accusations towards any fighter going into the fight or after the fight. I just saw someone that I felt like was a more skilled fighter in Terrence Crawford being able to, get the win over Canelo Alvarez. And that's what it was.
I'll say this, man. I wish you were in Cleveland because I would love to send you to Washington, man, because you Oh, heck of a politician, man. I love you for that, man. You you turned into Gregory Hines on that one.
And that's so disrespectful.
No, that's not. This is my guy,
that's
man.
so disrespectful.
I don't necessarily do politics, especially on the federal level. So, I ain't.
Man, it's so disrespectful. What you anyway? Let me.
Shout out to my brother,
let's ask a real question.
Have some fun. We gotta have some fun, man.
That shit never. Anyway, I'm gonna have to. BVO, man, we gonna have to talk. Because you out of order. Hey, we apologize, Boxing Source. We apologize to you because as a guest, we ain't supposed to be out here. Man, ain't nobody supposed to be saying this.
What do you think? What you saying that y'all aren't supposed to? Y'all don't necessarily grill your guests or something? Is that?
Oh no, we grill.
No, we're not grilling nobody. We're not grilling nobody.
No. But we grill you boxing wise. You know, so we gonna ask the tough questions boxing wise.
I feel you.
The nigga is out of order.
Hey, you see, he put the ER on it. He called me a nigger again. This dude is crazy, man. I don't know why he's doing. I've never seen nobody put the ER on it, man.
I said that nigga out of order.
Prize, you hear what I'm saying?
God, y'all is wild, yo.
He put the ER on it, didn't he, Prize?
Here we go. Now I got. Let me ask this question. Now I want to talk boxing with you, my brother. I want to ask this question. Going back to the Bud Crawford Canelo fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
We see the surgery that Canelo is getting. Do you think that's a cop-out, or do you think that it was really an injury that Canelo was dealing with? We listened to Bud talk about on speaking with Andre Ward. Ain't no fighter going in there and being at 100%. We all have injuries, those type of things. Do you think this was a cop-out, or do you think that there was an actual injury in that situation, in your opinion?
It could potentially be like an actual injury, right? As far as like a cop out, that would, I guess, be on his part. But it was like I was saying, before going into the fight, I feel like, that Terrence Crawford was going to win that fight. I just thought it was a bad style matchup overall. For Canelo, I haven't really seen him be much or go to like a second gear of sorts ever since his loss to Dimitri Bivol.
Yeah.
Like you kind of like seen a change within Canelo since that Dimitri Bivol fight, right? And over the course of the fight that he had there against Terrence Crawford, it was almost the same thing that he had against Dimitri Bivol, where he visibly knew that Terrence Crawford was able to outpoint him at certain points, and you seen him like have, like he does like a sigh of sorts, like
yeah. Hey, it was that I gotta keep fighting this. I gotta keep fighting this.
Like him, like it's like whatever he's doing is not working. Like he had that against Dimitri Bivol, and I just felt like one that Terrence Crawford like had those like technical advantages, the reach advantage was going to be a factor too. And I felt like he had a better corner. I always felt like he had a better corner. And I really don't put too much behind Eddie Reynoso as a trainer. Like I don't. Like we've seen it, not just in his fights with, he's with Canelo Alvarez, but I've seen it in his fights with like Ryan Garcia maybe, or when he had Oscar Valdez, particularly in his fight against Shakur Stevenson. So actually, that was like a week. That was basically like a week or two before Canelo Alvarez had his fight against Dimitri Bivol. Same thing, a fighter with that level of skill, and you couldn't get your fighter to properly adjust in order to get the upper hand against that fighter. So I really don't put that much behind Eddie Reynoso Jr. as a trainer like that.
Let me ask this question right here. Bud Crawford, 3-time undisputed, right? Mm-hmm. What would you put him overall in the sport of boxing? And this is a conversation that's being had at this current moment in time. Some people say that he should be on the Mount Rushmore. You know what I'm saying? Other people are saying that he ain't his resume. Where would you put Bud? overall in the sport of boxing.
It's tough, right? Because you're asking the question to a person that kind of like asked him in reference to where his standing would be in the course of boxing history. Like I asked him in the press conference, I said, hey, 2023, you were talking about, listen, this is going to be the Terrence Crawford era. This was before his fight against Errol Spence Jr., right?
Agreed.
And I asked him, I said, hey, in this fight against Canelo Alvarez, you're able to get this win and become the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. What would that mean for you over the in your standing in the course of boxing history? And he said, hey, man, he said, I'm going to, stamp my name and the talk will be over. So for him, he just feels like, at this point, this is the Terrence Crawford era. Now, what would that era kind of like entail? Maybe the past, 20, 25 years? Who knows? But like if you got guys like a Floyd Mayweather, or Manny Pacquiao, Bernard Hopkins, or I wouldn't necessarily say maybe a Roy Jones Jr., but like you would have like a Canelo, you would have like an Alexander Usyk or a Gennady Golovkin or something like that within that era. I would say if you include like a Floyd and Manny, he would be top 3. Okay. But if you don't, then
hold on.
He would have to be number 1.
You said he top.
Actually,
are you saying top 3 of this era or top 3 of all time?
Top 3 of this era.
Okay.
Yeah, top 3 of this era. All time, it's like boxing is like has so much history behind it. Like you can't really gauge that, so to speak. You know what I mean? So I kind of like put it in those particular eras, and I kind of like say that because it's like you can't like put like, for example, like even with one particular division, right? You can't like compare heavyweight boxing in the 70s to heavyweight boxing in the 80s to the 90s and so on and so forth, because you had different fighters within different eras. And I kind of like put it all across the board, right? Because boxing to me has changed significantly after, I would say, the early to mid 80s
absolutely.
Because of the rise of, I would say, football and basketball within the inner cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you had those guys like people talk about Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Ron Lyle, Ken Norton, Larry Holmes, Ernie Shavers, all of those fighters, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now, with the rise of basketball, with the rise of football, you don't necessarily have those type of heavyweights, at least within that division. Like you don't have American heavyweights competing anymore. That's why people bring up Deontay Wilder, because he actually came from basketball and then transitioned over to boxing. You know what I mean? So it's still like the same way here is that even in the lower weight classes, you're not seeing that many American fighters, go up to be there in the high ranks. So someone like a Terrence Crawford standing out within this particular era kind of like says, hey, you gotta, have them up there as far as like, top 3 or top 5 within this particular era. But like all time, it is very difficult to gauge.
Amazing. Go ahead, BBL.
I'll say this, man. That's why I love having you on here, man, because you always are giving great answers. And I'm gonna ask you this. Now, I know you don't like to bring up the all-time list, which is fair. Do you think Terrence Crawford is better than Willie Pep?
I wouldn't know anything about Willie Pep, man. Like that's some people would call it like the put up your Dukes era or something like that. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh my God, Willie Pep did this and Willie Pep did that, and he won around without throwing up. I'm like, yeah, but who saw him? Like who actually saw him do this? Or where is that like an actual record of what he did? That's the thing about being like a media member, right? Is that you actually have to report what happened, right? And if you don't have like any type of recollection of what happened, then it's like it's basically hearsay. So I can't properly gauge like a Willie Pep like that without having some type of actual frame of reference.
I gotta ask this question. I gotta ask this. I don't know where you live at, my brother. I don't know where you live.
Shout out T-Mac, but Brooke Sugar was my guy though. When they had them joints on ESPN Classic though.
But
Love sugar.
I gotta ask you this question. I gotta ask this. Being a member of the media, right? So, Tank Davis versus Jake Paul, right? Was supposed to happen in Georgia. Hey, I told you I'm a country nigga. I'm a Georgia nigga. You know what I'm saying? I'm not an Atlanta individual. I live in Middle Georgia. Most folks don't know what Middle Georgia is, but I live in Middle Georgia, right?
Almost by like Conyers or something like that. Or
nah. I live in Warner Robins, Georgia.
Oh yeah, Warner Robins. Yeah, you said that. Yeah. Yep.
But I want to ask the question. So I said, hey, because the fight was gonna happen in Atlanta, you know, if I get the opportunity, try to get credentials, those type of things. You know, you get to meet different people at fights and those type of things. I would go for that. Now that it's in Miami, I'm not watching it. I'm not watching it. Only reason I really want to watch it is because Antoine is on that card. I love Antoine. I'm a fan. I want to see what Alicia is gonna do.
Whoa.
Well, I think she might be in trouble in this fight, especially with it being 3 rounds or 3 minutes, 12 rounds. I think she might be in trouble. Bourdain, or however you say that, the Canadian lady. Thank you. However you say that now, I think that's going to be a very difficult fight for her, especially with it being. But my question is this: are you interested in the fight, and outside, and as well as the undercard? I would venture and go out and say that I think you'll probably be more interested in the undercard than the actual fight. Avion Griffin is on that undercard as well. Shout out to him. What's your thoughts on that whole situation as far as Jake Paul, Tank Davis? What's your thoughts on that whole situation?
All right, I'll start off with it being in Atlanta, right? Because you know, I had like that expectation that it would be in Atlanta. You know, it kind of like was part of like a schedule of sorts when it came to press conferences. Because that was gonna be it actually like stressed me out a little bit because when I was over in Vegas, I was there for a certain amount of time that by the time I would have got back, I would have only had like less than a day or so, then turn around and try to go to New York for the press conference when it was originally scheduled, right? But when they rescheduled it, and then they said that it wasn't going to be in Atlanta, it was going to be in Miami, so that's why they pushed it back basically a week. Okay. As far as like it overall moving to Miami, I wasn't necessarily a fan of it because to me, Atlanta has been like a town that hadn't necessarily gotten the fights.
We've been shitted. Hold on, Georgia has been shitted on.
Right.
We've been shitted on as far as fights go.
Right. But then you had the thing when Tank was going over there, like when he had his fight against Yorkis Gamboa and against Mario Barrios, right? Agreed. So I was thinking, hey, you know what? Now we could have, you know, more of these, you know, high profile or high level fights over in Atlanta, Georgia, right? And for me, I would have been like, and this is, you know, also to like kind of like be where location is. Like I'm based in the Washington D.C. area, right? But I'm more of like a traveler than, you know, trying to fly, you know, any place, right? So if it was in Atlanta, yeah, I could make that drive. That would have been nothing, right?
That's a good. Hey, that's an easy drive.
Yeah, that's easy.
If you catch Contour from DC, respectfully, Contour, that's a $50 fight, respectfully. Yeah, and they fly between. Only reason I know it because when I went to DC, I had to take it, and I took it out of Macon, Georgia.
Okay,
but that's a whole nother story. Go ahead. I apologize for cutting you off.
So you know, now with it being in Miami, it kind of like makes things maybe a little bit more difficult, so to speak, as far as like travel is concerned. The card itself, I kind of like expected because I knew that it was going to be promoted as a most valuable promotions card. So that's why mainly you have Alicia Baumgartner as the the co-main or the co-feature instead of having the WBA super lightweight champion Gary Antoine Russell there against Andy Hirooka as a co-feature, right? Yeah.
I think
that,
Antoine should be. I agree with you. I think
Mhm.
Antoine should be the co-main event.
Yeah, it should have been co-main event. And a lot of the other cards are basically MVP fighters there. And yeah, you talk about Avius Griffin there, the underdog. He's kind of getting back in the mix there. After his last fight, their tough fight for him was very tough fight for him. I don't know if it was more about matchmaking or whatever it was, but it just didn't look like he was able to properly get to the next part or the next level, because he did hurt his opponent there within the middle part of that fight, but just couldn't finish the job there. So he's getting back at it there in his comeback fight. But as far as like the overall like atmosphere, I'm not sure how it's going to look. Hopefully it'll be all good. But like I was saying here earlier before you got on, this was something that they were planning. So it's for Jake Paul, it's almost like option number 2, because he wanted to have the fight with Canelo Alvarez.
Canelo.
Yeah, so this is like option number 2 for him, as far as like a fighter that's a high profile fighter that has like a lot of attention that he could go up against there. So, and with that being said, and that being having that significant size difference, that's why it had to basically be an exhibition. You know what I mean? So that's the thing, right? Man, Dank father, man. I don't know, man.
Hey, shout out to my brother Dank, man. Shout out to my brother Dank.
Like, come
real
on.
quick, I gotta ask D, and I'm gonna let you go after this. I gotta let you, and I apologize for being long winded. I'm one of the most long winded niggas on YouTube that you ever find. It is what it is, but I want to give you a rundown of a couple fights. Want your opinion on the fights. So first off, Gary Antoine versus Hirooka. I think that's a good fight. I got Gary Antoine winning. What's your thoughts on that fight first?
Well, some people would say, shout out to my guy there. Was it Bang? That's with my guy GHB.
Shout out to Bang, man. Shout out to Bang and GH. Shout out to both of them.
Bang calls me the I guess what would you call it, like the residential Russell brother or something like that, because I've kind of been around the Russell family basically since I started the whole media thing, being based in DC and stuff like that. So
can I give you a quick story?
Go ahead.
Do you remember you remember Batman?
Yeah.
Batman, that's my brother, right? Like I love R.I.P. to Batman, you know what I'm saying? Me and Batman used to always tell me, like I said, I'm a huge Devin Haney fan. Batman used to always say when we get into arguments, he say, hey, when Devin ready to come up to 40, Antoine gonna welcome him up there. And man, shout out to Batman. R.I.P. to the great brother, man. A great individual, you know what I'm saying? So
very great individual.
A fantastic brother, man. A fantastic brother.
Yeah. So yeah, the thing with Gary Antoine is, like, he really took that loss to Alberto Puello to heart, and
he
like
needed to.
Yeah, he did need it to. But a lot of times when you have like fighters that build up the record and they're there at like 10-0, 12-0, 14-0, or whatever they have for their winning streak, and some may have a level of invincibility, right? And then they get to a point where they fight somebody and it ends up either being like a close fight, or they end up like being on the short end and they end up losing. And sometimes when you had that first loss, you don't necessarily want to either like blame yourself or it's like it was a fluke or anything like that. No, Gary Antoine Russell said, you know what? It was close. I thought I won, but they said it was a loss, and I blame myself for it.
I got to grow from this. I got to grow from this.
Yeah, I got to grow from this. Like I didn't listen properly to my corner, all that type of stuff. And he just, just locked in. And that's why I was talking about when he had his fight there against Raul Valenzuela. He was absolutely locked in for that particular fight. So
didn't smother his work at all.
Yeah, that is what he's doing here from this point forward. And it's like now he's kind of getting that going. He's starting to, build his profile a little bit to the public because, with the Russells, they ain't necessarily like out and about like that. They're pretty much like the closed unit. They've been like that way from the beginning there with his father. Shout out to Gary Russell Sr. there, rest in power, Gary Russell Sr. That was my guy.
Great brother. R.I.P. to that great brother.
That was my guy. That was my guy over here. So with Gary Antoine like winning that WBA title, like he's like, you know what? And he said this like after his fight, he said, you know what? That's basically the journey. It's not done. It's not done. So he's turning right around, getting right back in the gym, working in the gym to be like a better fighter. So you're gonna see him here against Andy Hirioka, get this fight out of the way, mandatory challenge out of the way, and then after that, he's like,
let's see him unify.
Yeah, he wants to unify. And remember, even before the fight that he had against Raul Valenzuela, he said, I'm gonna get this belt, but I still want that get back against Alberto Puello, regardless of what happens with Alberto Puello. Even with him losing to Subriel Matias, he wants that rematch with Puello.
And I thought Puello won that fight. I thought he won that fight.
Yeah, I could see where some people felt like he won that fight. So, hey, but like I said, Antoine, basically blamed himself for that. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna turn around. I'm gonna see where I can improve. I'm gonna do what I need to do, and just make sure that I'm a better fighter the next time I step in the ring.
Let me ask you this one. We saw Antoine versus, and this was the first time I saw Antoine hurt, was Rances Bartholomew.
Mm-hmm.
Rances is going to fight Frank Martin next. What's your thoughts on that fight? I'm gonna let you cook on it. Like I told you, I'm the longest one.
This was for what, the 25th, right?
I think it's on the Keith Thurman card. I believe it's on the Keith Thurman.
Yeah, 25th. Yeah, the 25th.
25th. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be an interesting fight for both. Particularly with Frank Martin, he hasn't fought since his loss to Tank Davis.
Yep.
And it's supposed to be like his first, bout around that 140-pound division. For Rances Bartholomew, he, has the, crazy style and everything like that. You talked about that Rances had with Gary Antoine Russell, where, a number of people felt like Rances was, kind of like getting the upper hand on Gary Antoine, and it ended up being a stoppage loss, and a number of people felt like that was like
it was crazy. A bad stoppage. I still think it was a bad stoppage.
Yeah,
I think it was a bad stoppage.
Then he had a fight, like one fight after that, and then he fought Jose Ramirez last year.
Yeah.
I don't know where Rances is at this particular point. So we
the man might what is he? Is he 38? I think he's 37, 38.
He might be around 38 or something like that. So this is something, man. I mean, you kind of, the thing with Frank Martin, right, is that he's kind of like been in and out of the gym thinking that, he would have a fight lined up or something like that. But I think he kind of like fell into that whole thing with the whole fiasco about if there would have been a rematch between Tank and Lamont Roach. So he's kind of like been in and out of the gym, being prepared. But
real quick,
39 years old.
I don't know. I'm gonna ask you, do you know who Frank is training with right now? I know. I believe he's not training with Derek James.
I don't think it is with Derek though, but I don't know. Who he's training with. I have to.
I don't know.
I can catch up with all that. But that's the thing too. I gotta catch up with one of the PR folks to see if I could set up something with Frank Martin. see if that could work.
And that'll be.
Yeah, do you know if Frank Martin is awake?
Is what?
He's what?
Is he awake?
No.
I wanted to make sure. I didn't want you to call him. He was still asleep, man. I mean, that brother laid there like he was dead when he fought Tank. I was like, Jesus.
You out of order. You out of order, man. You out of order.
So one thing I gotta ask you, man. DC is one of my favorite places, man. Are you disgusted that it's like $15 to get a smoke at Ben's Chili Bowl?
Oh God, man.
What?
Did you see?
That's crazy work.
Ain't that correct? $15, man.
Crazy work.
Man, can we keep? Let me ask another boxing question because I don't know what this nigga. I don't even know what this nigga.
That John went crazy left.
They never heard of
it. Like the original Benz, or if you go to the one at the airport, or like what is it over by Union Station or something? Yeah, them prices get crazy, bro.
They're crazy, man. You know the thing that got me about it is that when you go over there, man, it's like so much construction in DC. It don't even feel the same, man.
Yeah,
they done taught on all the projects. Look at my brother Ernest Johnson. It's a whole different area, man. But let me ask you this about DC, man.
Can I ask you about boxing? Can I finish my boxing conversation?
Hold on. You out of order.
Yeah, out of order.
Let me ask you this.
How am I out of order?
You out of order.
Fucking boxing. I'm trying to finish my boxing conversation.
Let me ask you this.
And you're not going to ask nothing about boxing.
So
we talking about boxing for 3 hours.
Let me ask you a question.
That's what we do.
DC,
that's a
we
fact.
seen. Hold on, Dub. Let me ask something important. So if we see an increased police presence, do you think that's a good thing? Because one thing DC has struggled with is being a lot of homicides, a lot of young men losing their lives. Do you think the increased police presence is going to help with that, or what would you say?
I don't necessarily know if it's gonna help or hinder or anything like that. Because sometimes I'll see that presence out there, but at the same token, I still see the same things that had been going on before their increased presence. So I don't know if it's for that or if it's for something else, because some of the things that I've seen within the city or the outskirts of the city still go on. So but yeah, the thing with DC though, y'all know that they used to call it Chocolate City. It's nowhere near chocolate, man. What do they call that thing? Like Neapolitan or some whatever it is now. But it's complete. It's nowhere near what it was in the early to mid 90s or nowhere near.
And I heard a lot of the go-go bars have closed as well. Do you kind of feel like the feeling of DC is kind of like not what it once was?
Hey man, hey, salute to the family, man. No, I'm just telling you. Shout out to my brother, man. Shout out to Boxing Source. Shout out to BVO. I'm out for the night, and hey, Source, I'm gonna pull up on you, and we'll continue the conversation.
Sunday evenings, man. Sunday evenings is when I usually have something on Wednesday. So.
All right, that's a bit. Hey, I'm gonna pull up on you, my brother.
All right, got you, bro.
All right, peace out, Dub. Peace out, right side.
Shout out to my brother BVO, man. Salute to all y'all. But I'm out for the night.
Get some rest, man. But I'll say this, and this will be my last question, man. Does it kind of bother you, man, when you see so many great things about a city like DC and still to see so much violence? Because that's the one thing I can say I really kind of hurts me in Cleveland. Like, it's like, for everything that's better, these kids are so violent towards each other. Does that ever bother you, man?
It bothers me, but it kind of like goes to the era that we're in, man. I just don't. It's not that I don't understand it, but it's more about how I guess society has basically changed dramatically over the past, what I would say 30 or 40 years. I mean, digital age it's had like, a lot of advantages, but also a lot of disadvantages. I think it's kind of like separated the family in itself as far as like the overall relationship that, parents have with their children, and the thing that we also don't have nowadays is the neighborhood. Like, I mean, you don't have like people that are, you know, living next to you or across the street from you that know who you are, who your kids are, who your cousins could be, or if your family was there within that same block. You don't necessarily have that anymore. So I think that lack of community kind of like has really affected how society has been, over these past couple of decades. So that to me is like one of the major contributing factors to like seeing a lot of what we see here with the kids today.
Yeah, I think the thing that really gets me about it is I've never seen such a lack of care for life. And I think sometimes these kids play these video games. And I didn't get it when I was younger, but I get it now. They got to understand there ain't no spawning back. This ain't Call of Duty. You don't get to spawn back.
This ain't no.
This ain't no video game, man.
But that was the thing, though. I think that even then, we understood that. A lot of us understood that. Like we played those games. We could have had like me being old, we had like the duck hunts and all that type of stuff. But we also had like other games where they actually had those type of things. Like we had a Terminator 2, the arcade game, or like Doom. Like Doom was the game that kind of like revolutionized, computer games or whatever it is. So we've had those type of, gory or, violent type of things that happen, but it just seems like now it's just taking it to a whole nother level. And I think too that when you have like accessibility or the ease of accessibility to a multitude of things, that it makes it, a lot worse.
Yeah, I think, and you know what, man, I'll just say this because I really appreciate you coming through, man. I think the reason I like to have these conversations I have with you or anybody else in boxing, because one thing that people understand, just like football, just like basketball, boxing can take a lot of people out of the ghetto. It can give you an opportunity to really see the world. Like in your case, you've been all around the country, world renowned for it. And it's just, I think more people got to understand that there's other things you can do. But because I'm telling you, man, for me, it breaks my heart to see so many young caskets, man. I think Cleveland right now already had about 400 caskets, man. And we're talking about kids from as low as young as 14, as old as 36. It's just crazy when you see that, man. This is the first time in history, human history, we're seeing younger people die at a higher rate than people over 50. And I can say this, man, it's just sad, man. It's sad. And, you can have any talking points you want about it. I just say this, man. And that's why I wanted to ask you that, because I know you're a brother with a big heart who cares, man. So where can we find you, man? Because we're going to have you back soon. But, we had to talk you to death for me and Dub and Free everybody. We had to talk you to death.
That's what we do over here.
Yeah, word.
Salute to my brother Ben Israel becoming a member. Salute, my brother.
Appreciate you, brother Ben, man. Salute to you, brother.
Yeah, as you see there, it's the Boxing Source through all social media platforms. You do have the website, theboxingsource.net. Like I said, I've been at least doing something within a podcast form for about 10 years. Been covering events, probably for about like 7 to 8 years, and on multitude of avenues through photography or covering or just being there as an actual media member. And that that's pretty much like the gist of it. So that's the other thing about being like an independent media member, is that you don't necessarily have to, or you don't cater to a specific promotional company, fighter, or anything like that. Like I'm not here for talking about a certain fighter every single day.
Yeah.
Or I'm not here to talk about what I would say, like certain subjects that don't necessarily deal with boxing. You know what I mean? Or something like that. I recently just like something real quick, right? Recently saw something from Dan Patrick, who was talking with Cam Newton.
Yeah.
And they were bringing up something about when Dan Patrick was reporting about the whole thing with the steroids with the Mark McGuires or, the Barry Bonds in that particular era, and that he had like a relationship with the Mark McGuire and stuff like that, but you still had to be a journalist at the end of the day. So whether they're a friend or not, you still have to report the story. And I think these days, especially in this social media era, anybody, just being real, anybody could basically be a media member in this avenue. And with that being said, you don't necessarily have any type of like thing where you could validate someone, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, okay, someone could say something that could be completely false, completely wrong, or off, or anything like that, that could be to a detriment to the sport or to a fighter, and not necessarily get checked or reprimanded for it. And I think this is one of the few sports where you kind of like have that. Like, you can talk basketball, or, you know, everybody could talk basketball, everybody could talk football and baseball and that type of stuff, but it's a completely different thing to try to enter into the media field for those sports, because they have something completely different when it comes to being accepted to something like that. Boxing, not necessarily like that. And it's something to where a lot of people's integrity can be put into question. But that's the thing with me, is that, you know, I try to separate what is actual and what could be, like I said, rumored or whatever it is. So you got to be able to properly separate that, because you could get to a bridge to where you're not going to be able to have access to, you know, certain events. Like when I started, I didn't have access to all of these, you know, events. Like I had to go through that particular process, go through the credentials, like apply for credentials, go through the proper channels, go through the proper avenues, be denied until, you know, getting to the point where you're able to be accepted, and then show the work that you're able to do when you're at that event. So that's the thing about it. And, you know, sometimes, you know, I try to get people that are like me to get into the field, because when I started, you didn't have that many of us around, not that many. The ones that you did have, they're actually in like higher positions at this point juncture, but you could, well, some may be able to count on their finger how many that they see that, you know, look like this, that, you know, that are in boxing media. So think about it is that, like, if you see like a few folks that are out there and about, that you see where they got their start, you know, maybe it could have been from, you know, me or someone that's like me or anything like that, but you really don't see that many of us around this field for boxing media. So that's the thing about it. I mean, we want to get people to talk boxing as much as possible, but I wanted to be in like a positive light, or at least to be where we actually know what we're, you know, basically doing on that front.
Shout out to Angie Baby. She got it to where we can see where. Go ahead and subscribe to my man Boxing Source. Hey, Angie Baby, we're gonna make Angie Baby our new moderator, man. So if y'all need information, we'll have Angie Baby drop it for y'all. But I'm gonna say this, man, and I want to say this because we don't say this enough. When I used to watch boxing talk, I used to be watching my man Just Do, and I remember I used to watch you. I used to watch Dante's Boxing Nation, and you know what? I remember when I rolled up on you, man, I didn't want to look like a fan because I'm a big guy. I know you looked at me like, who is this big nigga when I see you? But I really appreciate the work you do, because we don't see enough of brothers who speak well and understand how to carry themselves enough, because that's what you got to do, man. You got to be a professional in every sense of the word. And I appreciate the professionalism you bring to this, man, because at the end of the day, we can all play around, but ain't nothing like when you come and do the work, man. Much love. See you soon, man. We love you, man.
Appreciate you, brother.
Quick, like on that thing when we did like link up there in New York City, I think, what was that
Xander fight.
Xander, yep.
Yeah. So the thing about that is, like, you shouldn't really like have to worry about that, because one of the persons that, you know, kind of like calls me a mentor in this game is actually like bigger than you. So it really don't, you know, like bother me, because like when I got them into the game, like that was from like years ago. So it like I said, it's really nothing much to me. It's more about the sport of boxing. It's not really, because like when it's all said and done, I mean, I'm gonna say what I had to say and everything like that. Once it's all said and done, Boxing's still gonna be here, So that's how I put it.
So for anybody who didn't hear that, Tank is wrong. Boxing never gonna go away. Dana White's gonna come and go like they all do. Don King came and went.
Only
Howard
in America,
Cosell
baby.
came and went. Yeah, everybody came and went, man. And Boxing's still here. Check out my man, Boxing Source, man.
Yeah, I just
And
subbed
on
up
that
to him.
note,
Yep.
shout out to my right-hand man, Prize Fighter. If you see me, you're gonna see Prize
You
Fighter. We
already
like
know.
Jay-Z and Miss Bleak. We here
You
forever,
already
man.
know.
And we go, y'all. Peace.
Since we were at a Top Rank event, and I'll just put it like this, man. Now look, you got this guy, BVO Sports, okay? He has this great channel. If you visit here for the first time, be sure to hit the like button. That's what we do, okay? I'm Bob Arum, and I hit the like button, and you got to hit the subscribe button to support BVO Sports TV.
Hey, and y'all better stop calling me the Black Mexican, man. I'm not Mexican. I'm black. I don't think that's funny. But I love y'all, man. We gone. Peace.
Peace.
On behalf of BVO Sports TV, we would like to thank our sponsor, Raycon, makers of the Raycon Everyday Earbuds, the perfect model for premium sound with active noise cancellation to block out distractions and transparency mode to keep you aware of your surroundings. They are the ideal for your everyday needs. Just visit RayconGlobal.com. That's RayconGlobal.com and elevate your listening experience.